Day, 30 teams put out the call. Wanted, the class of 95's leading men. For the last 6 seasons, it's been the Barry and Emmett show in the running back spotlight. Now, Penn State's Kajana Carter wants in on the act. The road less traveled was smooth enough for Sweetness and good enough for Rice. Alcorn State's Steve McNair hopes to follow their lead to greatness. The big man up front is a rare and coveted role. Florida's Kevin Carter has the look and, according to some, a perfect fit for the part. Calling all stars, it's the NFL Draft on ESPN. Beautiful day in New York City, and inside the Paramount Theater, the Madison Square Garden Junior, the action is heating up. Big news last night involving the fine defensive tackle Warren Sapp of the University of Miami. Where will he go? Big news atop the draft, where Kajana Carter, running back Penn State, is the #1 pick. The Panthers have made a trade of that pick. A crowd of close to 4,000, draft towels and all. The fur is flying in New York as it is elsewhere around the league. Chris Mortensen reports from Charlotte, where Bill Polian and the man who built the Bills will start to build this new franchise. They already have veteran quarterback Frank Reich to start the season. What they put around him is the big question. Andrea Kramer is in Jacksonville, where head coach Tom Coughlin has spent 2 years preparing for the next few hours. Steve Berline, Desmond Howard, and Jeff Loggeman are the nucleus. The rest will be decided today. Also in Florida, Gary Danielson will be with the Buccaneers, who scored in last year's draft with Trent Dilfer and Eric Rex. This winter, they signed Alvin Harper away from the Cowboys. War Room Cam will focus on Sam White as the Bucs look for some defensive help to go along with Hardy Nickerson. Hank Goldberg is with the Jets, where new head coach Rich Kotite is hearing the cries to replace Boomer at quarterback. But with the loss of Loggeman, defense may be the call. Moving up north, Brad Nessler is with the Vikings, and equipped with War Room Cam, where Dennis Green has 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. Warren Moon is the soul of the offense, but he's 38. Draft for the present or draft for the future? That's the question. Mark Malone reports from Philadelphia, where Randall remains, but there's change all around him. Ricky Waters in, Herschel Walker out. Plenty of choices lie ahead for new coach Ray Rhodes. Chris Fowler shuffles off to Buffalo, where the nucleus of a championship team is still intact. But the questions surround Jim Kelly, now 35 and recovering from knee surgery. Chris Myers reports from Dallas, where they still feel the sting of January's championship loss to the 49ers. We'll be there with War Room decisions of Jerry and Barry as they look for some protection up front for their offensive machine. Leslie Visser is in San Francisco, where the memory of embracing the trophy is still sweet. It'll be hard to hold on to. Already they've lost Waters. Dion's a question, but this is a club that always finds the player they need. And the coach, Mike Gottfried, is stationed in the film room, where he'll break down the top players in the NFL Draft. Back in New York about 25 minutes ago, it was announced, as the crowd is already getting fired up, that the Carolina Panthers have decided to trade their #1 draft pick and move down to the #5 slot for Cincinnati's #1 pick. The Bengals would move up, expressively probably to take Kajana Carter. In exchange, Carolina also gets Cincinnati's high pick in the 2nd round, the 36th overall. So Carolina would have 4 picks in the top 36, but not the #1 pick. Let's go down to Carolina Panther headquarters and Chris Mortensen and get the reaction on why the Panthers made the deal.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bill Polian, Chris, said that he needed players, not just one players, and a running back like Kajana Carter didn't make sense to him with an expansion team. Now he's going to be able to take the quarterback he really likes that he compares to Jim Kelly, Kerry Collins with the #5 pick overall. Then they get 3 picks and 5 slots from the end of the 1st round to the start of the 2nd round. They get their players, they build their offensive line, and I think he feels good about the process that this expansion team's about to undertake, Chris.
All right, Morton, we'll be back to you shortly, and often, obviously. That is one story that has brewed just the last half hour. The story that brewed around the league yesterday and certainly last night in the early hours this morning is Mort's report yesterday that a National Football League security check of Warren Sapp, the fine defensive tackle from the University of Miami, revealed 7 positive drug tests, one of which were for cocaine. I spoke late last night with his college coach, now head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, Dennis Erickson. He intimated to me that that was way off base, that there are only 2 drug tests in question, both for marijuana. Each one is freshman year, one is senior year, so 3 years apart. As for the rest of the allegations and the stories that have been dug up thus far by the National Football League, Erickson spoke with us on ESPN just a half hour ago.
The 7 positives, the cocaine, that's absolutely a lie and not true at all. And that did not, Warren Sapp did not, or was not, I should say, involved in any those accusations.
Dennis Erickson loves Warren Sapp as a player, as a person, and one thing we've learned already about Warren Sapp, he's a stand-up guy. He is with our Craig Erickson along with his agent, Drew Rosenhaus. Craig?
Absolutely, he is a stand-up guy. Warren Sapp, Drew Rosenhaus, his agent. A lot of allegations taking place right now. Drew, we'll start with you. Dennis Erickson, you just heard there, he said that the 7 tests were absolutely a lie. Now, last night you said the same. Do you still stand beside that?
Oh, absolutely. There's no truth to that whatsoever. I can't even tell you where this stuff is coming from. Somebody must be making it up. Warren Sapp has never had any multiple tests of that nature. That's a complete untruth. They've talked about cocaine. That's also very much untrue. And you're looking at a guy right now that has had very few problems in the past.
Did you talk last night with Dennis Erickson?
Yes, I did. You know, and I was trying to figure out where these things were coming from. Coach Erickson was obviously there, and he was shocked to hear these reports because these guys have been together, and there was never any problems. It's just false, and we're still trying to piece together where this is all coming from.
All right, Warren, and that comes down to you. I mean, have you ever done drugs at the University of Miami?
I've never had a problem at the University of Miami with any kind of substance.
Does all of this blow your mind that this is coming out?
I mean, I'm sitting up here ready for the draft, and all of a sudden we get a call, and then everything is flying at me. So, I mean, it's just blowing up right underneath me. So, I mean, it's just real tough right now.
How about the reaction to Dennis Erickson and his support for you?
I mean, I knew Coach would stand behind me because, I mean, like he's always said, when we ran together, I mean, that's my guy. I mean, he knows what happened.
How about teams? What are they telling you right now?
Well, I've been very impressed. I'm pleased with what the teams have had to say. I don't think that there's a tremendous amount of concern. I think the teams that were interested in drafting Warren before the reports that surfaced last night are still going to take him. I still see him going in the top 10. Some of the teams with real thin skin, they might be scared away by this bogus media stuff. But, hey, that's fine because, you know, he wouldn't want to play for those guys anyhow.
All right, Warren, what about the 2 positive tests?
I mean, like we said, I mean, it's total fabrication. I mean, I don't even know where it's coming from. So, I mean, wherever somebody's getting it from, I mean, I just actually, you know, show some proof then, if that's what you say.
All right, hang in there today. We'll be back with you.
All right.
All right, Chris.
All right, Craig and Warren and Drew, thank you very much. Certainly the name Warren Sapp, one we'll be talking about plenty. But for now, the name of the commissioner, Paul Tagliabue, to open the 60th draft. Let's go to the podium.
Welcome to the 60th Annual National Football League College Draft. We have had a trade of the first selection in the draft. The Carolina Panthers have traded the first pick in the draft to the Cincinnati Bengals. In return for the Bengals' first-round selection, the number 5 choice overall, and the Bengals' second-round selection, number 36 overall. So the Cincinnati Bengals are now on the clock.
Well, we've been on for about 8 minutes, and I think we have a circuit overload. Joe Theismann, Mel Kiper, who will be with us for, well, today's coverage, tomorrow's coverage, as gavel to gavel, 249 picks will be covered here on ESPN. Let's go to Kajana Carter right away. The pick is coming up. He, no doubt, is a Marshall Faulk type, maybe a tad slower if that's possible, but he's right in his class, right?
He's a great football player, Chris. When you look at Kajana Carter and the Cincinnati Bengals, the Bengals matched the offer that Buddy Ryan gave to Carl Pickens. They have Darnay Scott on the other side. Now you're throwing Kajana Carter to a running game that was non-existent last year. And also factor in Eric Bieniemy and James Joseph, who they added through free agency. Kajana Carter needs an offensive line, so the Bengals will have to address that down the road. But Kajana Carter, great football player, tremendous game breaker in that Marshall Faulk mold. And we saw the difference Marshall Faulk made last year to the Indianapolis Colts.
Well, Cincinnati didn't obtain the pick to take 50 minutes to figure out who they were going to select. Let's go to the podium.
With the first pick in the draft, the Cincinnati Bengals have selected running back from Penn State, Kajana Carter. The Jacksonville Jaguars are now on the clock.
Kajana Carter, there he is, and you think of all the work all of these young men have put in just getting to this level, and what a happy day, and the suspense. And I can't say with Kajana Carter, there was a lot of suspense at what number he was going to go. It was just, as he found out late last night and early this morning, Joe, where he was going to go. But obviously the Bengals want to do what Marshall Faulk has done for the Colts, which is immediately elevate them to a respectable 500 football team, which sights a lot higher.
It really has, Chris. I think when you take a running back of the caliber of Kajana Carter, all of a sudden you wind up in a situation where you've got a young man who you know is going to be there, going to be able to carry the football for you, and you build through the running game. It takes a tremendous amount of pressure off of Jeff Blake and the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. It helps out an offensive line that doesn't have to be very good. They can be okay because this is the kind of a football player who can make the offensive line look good. It also keeps the defense off the field a lot more. So this one individual impacts the entire football team at every position.
Mel, he is the height 5'10", maybe just a tad bigger than Emmitt Smith, taller than Thurman Thomas, but at 224, he is a lot bigger build, isn't he?
Strong kid, Chris, and you see the extra gear he has. When this kid breaks the tackle and gets into the open field, nobody, no 4-4 corner is going to catch him. He ran 4.35 during individual workout. You see the creative ability he has. Now the balance and the tackle breaking. Now catching the football, low pass, catches it, turns it upfield, then there's more power that he displays. But it's that ability to sense daylight and then turn it on in the open field and go all the way. And that's the game-breaking ability that Faulk provided, Emmitt Smith provides, Barry Sanders provides, and that's what Kajana Carter is going to do for the Bengals, provided they build that offensive line up.
Here's a number that blows everyone's mind. I don't care what competition you're running against. 7.8 yards a carry. He averaged last year for Penn State. 23 touchdowns in the regular season, 3 more in the Rose Bowl as Penn State defeated Oregon. So 26 touchdowns and 1,539 yards plus 156 in the postseason. I mean, you're talking close to a 2,000-yard back. He is the first running back to be selected with the #1 overall pick since Tampa selected and did not sign Bo Jackson at 86. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Bengals are going to sign him. He'll be the first guy drafted and signed by his team, first running back since 1981. George Rogers, the New Orleans Saints, the year before that with Billy Sims, Detroit, 2 years before that, Earl Campbell. But we haven't seen this for a while. Remember, Marshall Faulk was the #2 pick last year, and certainly Kajana looks good in those Bengal colors. By the way, let's say something about the Cincinnati Bengals right now. Mike Brown, hey, what a gutsy move. He told everyone last night, if you want to come up to the #5 spot, better make your deal by Friday night. He's an honest man because he knew that if no one wanted to come up and give him what he wanted, we're going to go all the way up. Here he makes a gutsy move for Kajana Carter. He has said a year from now, if his stadium situation isn't solved, he would entertain moving the team out. My goodness, the Bengals are standing mighty tall. Where's this come from?
Well, I think it comes from a foundation that they want to go in a direction. I mean, Mike Brown has said, okay, we're going to start and build this football team this way. A running back is a very safe choice. What surprises me is that Carolina, I think, made the move cheap. A 1 and a 2, that's all for him. That's the biggest surprise to me. You'd think of Kajana Carter or the first pick in the draft is going to cost somebody a lot more than just a 1 and a 2. But the ulterior motive of Carolina is they didn't want to take they wanted Kerry Collins. They felt like maybe if they moved down a little bit, we know Kerry Collins is going to be there at 5. So Polian may have sold the deal a little bit short, but at least he gets the player that he wants. And, of course, if you're an expansion team, you can't be hurt with picks. As many picks as you can get, that's fine.
Well, the Carolina Panthers now will wait for 4 more picks. They will be the 5th overall. Bill Polian, and speaking with him this morning, Chris Mortensen, knew very well the history of trading out of the #1 spot, that usually the teams that get the #1 player do better than the other teams that get a lot of draft picks. But as he said, Mort, that's only statistics, and he needs players. He's in a different role than most of these teams that have traded out of the #1 slot because he's just building a team from scratch. Mort?
That's exactly right, Chris. I mean, that was the one thing that impressed me yesterday is that he needed more than one player, and a running back with an expansion team, no offensive line, just didn't make sense to him. By the time he expects to be playoff competitive in about 4 years, who knows if Kajana Carter would be around. Of course, with Kerry Collins, he can be a little bit more patient. They've signed Frank Reich. They've acquired Frank Reich to be their main quarterback and really to be a tutor to Kerry Collins if they get him at the #5 pick as expected, Chris.
Well, Mort, certainly building a franchise, and we'll talk about more, as the Carolina Panthers have a lot of fellas in that front office that have done this before. Building your football team, whether you are new or whether you are experienced. Mel, you want to get a blue-chip player? Let's walk through the top 10 or 12 players that you've got on the board.
Strong group of athletes, Chris. You look at the top, Carter, Tony Baselli, who figures that Jacksonville can be a Pro Bowl left tackle. Kevin Carter, an outstanding pass-rushing defensive end. You got Michael Westbrook, who figures to be that big receiver that Norv Turner wants with the Washington Redskins. And then Warren Sapp, who could fall all the way down to the Cleveland Browns at 10 because of some of those allegations, plus the fact that he doesn't really fit the physical parameters. And by that, I mean he's not 6'4", 300 pounds. Wheatley could drop a little bit with durability questions, but he's got great talent. McNair may go to Houston with the 3rd pick. Carey, the 5 pick to Carolina. Both those quarterbacks have great potential. With McNair, I think the one quarterback 4 years down the road who could be spectacular. Stokes, the speed question could push him maybe to 8 to 15 area. And Joey Galloway, no question with speed with him, Chris. 4.18 speed. Seattle with Dennis Erickson needing somebody to complement Brian Blades. Would love to have Joey Galloway.
Well, those are the players and the names that you'll hear awfully early. The Jacksonville Jaguars figured they'd paid all this money to get into the league. Why not take 15 minutes while you're on the clock? You get 15 minutes for each of the first-round selections. There's about 8.5 to go with the 2nd overall pick. The word for weeks has been Tony Baselli, the outstanding tackle of Southern California, continuing a fine tradition of left tackles in the name of Munoz, etc., from that school. Or is there some late thoughts of going somewhere else in Jacksonville? Let's head down to Florida and check in with Andrea Kramer. Good afternoon, Andrea.
Good afternoon, Chris. Well, they've been taking calls all morning about the 2nd pick. I guess there's no harm in listening, right? For example, we've heard that Minnesota has called to try to get up into the 2nd spot to take Steve McNair, especially since, as you mentioned, Houston's interested in McNair at the 3rd spot. But Tom Coughlin has a desperate need for tackles. Some people have said it's a mortal lock. He'll take Baselli. This Tony Baselli is a guy that he is very, very high on. Can't say enough about how fluid he is, especially for a big man, 6'7". He even said that he could add some weight still, about 10 more pounds. Tony Baselli is also a guy who wants to come here to Jacksonville. I spoke to him earlier this week, and he would be very happy to be the 2nd pick in this draft and to prove that he is closer to Anthony Munoz than he is closer to Tony Mandarich, the last offensive lineman taken this high, number 2 in '89. Chris, back to you.
All right, Andrea, at about 7.5 minutes left on the clock. Will that be the young man that goes to Jacksonville? Although, if he doesn't go there, he's not going to fall very far. That's for darn sure. Put him a left tackle, let him stay there for 10 years. We'll be back in New York. Keep it where it is. The Paramount Theater in New York, where one pick has been made. It's Kajana Carter. He is a Cincinnati Bengal because of their trade with the number 1 pick with the Carolina Panthers. He's with our Craig James right now. And I imagine, Craig, got to be all smiles.
Guy has to be all smiles. Keyjana stands for young man, right?
That's right. Yes, it is. And right now, I'm very happy. Hour and a half from my hometown. You know, it can be. Words can't explain how I feel right now, because all my family comes see me now every week.
What were your emotions like, knowing over the last 24 hours you're being traded around and discussed so much?
It was kind of funny, you know. My lawyer, Lee Steinberg, said that I'm going to go first, but he don't know with who. He was saying how Carolina was interested in Carey, and they was interested in trading down to a team, you know, who wanted to select me. And so I was really relaxed, to tell you the truth, last night, because I was let God take care of it, and you know, I was going to be happy anywhere I went.
Were you concerned about Carolina and their makeshift offensive line?
No, I had confidence in my skills. That's how I really looked at it. You know, like I said, any team who comes together with 40 people that want to win each week, I think they'll be all right, and that's how I came into it.
Your skills, is there any area that you'll work on particularly going into the NFL?
I work on all my skills. You know, NFL is the elite group, and I'm going to try to be one of the elite, try to be one of the best. And right now, I'm going to work on all my skills. I'm not satisfied, you know, 1st pick, but that's all right now. It's time to go to work.
1st pick, number 1 guy, you feel the pressure?
No, not at all. I was going to have fun. I was a thing I could carry with the rest of my life. You know, nobody could ever say they was the 1st pick in the '95 draft.
Well, you can always dance your way around. You took ballet, right?
Yeah, I don't think I can do that. I think they make fun of me a little bit. One thing I want to say, once again, I did it up close. I want to send out my regards to the people in Oklahoma City again. I honestly feel bad about that, and I hope that a lot of people are feeling good. We're feeling a little bit better about, you know, at least we got the 2 guys that, you know, that supposedly did it.
All right. Hey, congratulations. Have a great career.
Thank you. Hi, Anna.
All right. Hey, Boomer, he can dance his way through the NFL defensive lines.
Hey, there's no doubt about that. And we learned something else about Kajana Carter, Craig, that in the greatest moment of his life, at least a professional or athletic life, that he's thinking about those and the tragedy involved in Oklahoma. So we know what kind of ball player comes out of Penn State with Joe Paterno. One other note on Kajana Carter. Remember, they're in the AFC Central with Cincinnati. Cleveland a running team, Pittsburgh a running team, Houston 2-14, Jacksonville in there. So Cincinnati can get a few more wins right away with Carter and play maybe the same style of ball a little bit as the big guys who made the playoffs, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Jacksonville's pick. Here's the commission.
The Jacksonville Jaguars have selected tackle, Southern California, Tony Baselli. The Houston Oilers are now on the clock.
So Tony Baselli, the tackle from Southern California, goes with the second pick to Jacksonville. USC offensive lineman, top 5 in the draft. 15 years ago, a young man by the name of Anthony Munoz went with the third pick to Cincinnati. He's going to be going to the Hall of Fame. Ron Yeri was the first pick at 68 with the Vikings. Is he the similar quality player, Mel?
They hope he is, Chris. You watch him here, number 71, the left tackle, critical left tackle. You see the quickness. Here's a kid, 325 pounds. He can get down the field and deliver a block on the move. You'll see him in pass protection and drive blocking. He gets explosion at the point. Here you go with Sean Walters. Then you watch him here again at left tackle, pass protection. There's Ronaldo Winnie's going up against a quick pass rusher. Doesn't even get into the backfield to do any damage whatsoever. Pulling around the corner. Outstanding quickness for a kid, 325 pounds, Chris. There's no way to soft sell Tony Baselli. He's a great football player, great character individual as well. Kid who had a 3.02 grade point average. He's a business administration major. In the summer of '94, he worked on a construction crew that repaired the Los Angeles Coliseum after the earthquake damage. So a kid who really has his head on straight, and certainly with the Jacksonville Jaguars will be looked to be that left tackle that they can put out there for maybe 12 to 14 years, and maybe half of that time, Chris, he'll be in the Pro Bowl.
6'6", 315. He probably repaired the Coliseum all by himself. Here are the guys we were talking about. Ron Yeri, as good as it gets, was a #1 pick back in 1968 with the Vikes, 7 Pro Bowls. Anthony Munoz, #1 pick of the Bengals. He was the 3rd overall pick in 1980, 11 Pro Bowls out of 13 years. Marvin Powell made 5 Pro Bowls. So this is the pedigree from whence Tony Baselli comes. And one other note as we go to Andrea Kramer. The first draft pick ever made by the Cincinnati Bengals, with a guy that knows how to build a football team, Paul Brown, was a center. Bob Johnson. He put him at center. He played there for 10 years. As we go down to Jacksonville, I've got a feeling that Tom Coughlin, first pick, Tony Baselli, Andrea, he's going to put him there for 10 to 12 years at left tackle and block the sun.
Absolutely, Chris. And boy, he was just watching the shot of Tony holding up the jersey, and he was a very happy man, needless to say. Congratulations, but what took so long? What were you doing in there?
Lots of phone calls, lots of things going on in there, Andrea.
Any doubt, though, about Baselli?
Absolutely none. No, he really looked good in that teal and black, didn't he?
He did. Now, tell me what it was exactly about him. You've worked him out, you've had dinner with him, you've spent a lot of time researching him. What is it about Baselli that you like so much?
Well, I like his size and his speed and his great ability to move his feet. He has the instinct of dominance. He has great character. He's focused young man, mature, a great foundation building block for this franchise.
Did you get a little nervous when Cincinnati moved up to the first pick, especially since they had quite a need for a left tackle also?
Cincinnati coveted Baselli. They certainly have had great success in the past with the offensive lineman taken high in the draft, in the same school as well. So, yes, there were some nervous moments.
Now, you've got a number of picks, 12 picks overall today because you gave up 2 in the Mark Brunell trade yesterday. Do you expect to move up at all in the first round, package some picks and move up?
We'll see, Andrea. We have some players in mind. We'll judge as the draft goes on, the first round goes on, for example, exactly what we need to do, and if it's worthy and worth moving up and giving up some picks, we'll do it.
And we will talk to you later as the day progresses. Thank you very much, Coach Coughlin. Let's head back to New York.
All right, Tom and Andrea, thank you very much. Steve Berline and Mark Brunell are the quarterbacks for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They just got smiles with that draft pick of Tony Baselli. We'll be back. Speaking of quarterbacks, is this the slot for Steve McNair? Does he go with the 3rd pick to Houston? He's in New York, so are we. We'll be back. And welcome back to the new venue of the 60th annual NFL selection meeting. We commonly call it the NFL Draft. We're here at the Paramount Theater in New York. And now is the time, Mr. Theismann, that we start to look at quarterbacks. And there's a very good reason why. A, there are a couple guys that, especially Steve McNair, with numbers you can't believe.
Right.
But B, I think you're younger than the average age of quarterbacks in the NFL.
I could well be very young in the comparison. When we take a look at the guys around the league, the National Football League has got to be in a fearful situation. There are 90 NFL jobs that are available. 32 of those jobs are occupied by players who are 30 years or older. 8 are over 35. But look at the bottom number. Of the 28 teams that started last year, 16 starters, or the 30 now, 16 starters are over 30 years old. I think that the National Football League is entering right now in this round, this first round, and in this draft, a fearful draft. And what it is teams are a little bit afraid to take these guys because there really isn't a quarterback out there that you can call a franchise quarterback like you did Dilford or Schuler or Bledsoe or Meyer in the last couple. But what you've got is you've got a tremendous need for some quality quarterbacks. That's what you're going to see in this draft. Two guys in particular, Steve McNair, Kerry Collins, will probably go in the next 3 or 4 picks. When I graded them out, I took a hard look at their abilities. Arm strength, McNair is unmatched here. Mechanics, McNair just looks really fluid in what he does. Kerry Collins has that little twitch in his throw. Pocket presence, Collins hangs in the pocket. That's where he makes his living. Athletic ability, there aren't athletes in this draft at any position that can compare to McNair. And system preparation, I think it goes to Kerry Collins out of Penn State. Now, when I broke them down as far as their ability to throw the football, McNair struggles throwing the ball down the field from an accuracy standpoint. Collins does an excellent job of hanging in the pocket, putting air under the ball, completing passes into the receivers while they're running down the field. Touch-wise, McNair, again, he's a strong-arm guy, really waits till receivers break before he throws the ball, doesn't anticipate it well. Collins does. Rollout, as I said before, there isn't any comparison to Steve McNair. He's the best when he's on the run. Kerry Collins, better stay at home. And then when you look at the reloads, McNair has the quick arm. Collins has an arm that's a little slower. But I rate both of them to a total points of 34, Boom. So I think they both have strengths. They just fall in different areas.
And it may decide when once they get slotted on teams, we'll see who fits where in your eyes a little bit better. The Houston Oilers have a big decision to make. Do they go with Steve McNair? Do they look at the wide receiver Michael Westbrook from Colorado? Do they go Kevin Carter on the defensive line? Let's go down to Dallas for Chris Myers. It's not far from Houston. He had his ear out the window, and I think he heard the war room conversation all the way up in Big D. Chris?
We're listening closely. Well, the Oilers have lost 40 sacks in terms of personnel over the last couple of years, so the debate came down to Kevin Carter or Steve McNair. And as one of the other Oiler coaches told me, he said McNair is a talented player, but by the time he gets it done, we will have gone through 2 head coaches here, referring to Houston. General Manager Floyd Reese, who's been the McNair backer all the way through, he turned it around, said this guy, you cannot pass up a franchise quarterback. How many teams has Reggie White taken to the Super Bowl? He says McNair can do for Houston what Warren Moon has done, and they relate his athletic ability to that of Steve Young, and they're willing to wait slowly and bring him along rather carefully. Let's now go over to Chris Mortensen at Panther headquarters.
Well, Chris, a couple of things about that Oilers pick. Mike Holovec, the former general manager of the Oilers, still evaluates talent for Houston. He's one of the best talent evaluators in the NFL. He gave McNair one of the highest grades ever for a quarterback. That was an influence. And Floyd Reese has made this point. Hey, they went to the playoffs for 7 years. He's not looking to get back to the playoffs. He wants to win a Super Bowl within 4 or 5 years, and he knows that Steve McNair is going to take some time. But in that 4th year, if McNair is ready, and if he's the Michael Jordan of this draft, then he thinks he's going to look pretty good with this one. Now, for some developments down in Tampa Bay, let's go to Gary Danielson.
There is some breaking news here in Tampa Bay. Craig Erickson, the starter a year ago, looks like a deal has been made with Indianapolis. It's contingent on Craig Erickson signing a deal with Indianapolis, and I really think this is a fit for Craig Erickson. Played for Lindy Infante, the new offensive coordinator there. It's a controlled passing game. Craig, a very hard worker. I asked Sam Weish why the deal was made, and he says he's been working with Trent Dilfer since March every morning, February, March, every morning, 2 to 3 hours. He thinks he's ready to play. So it looks like Craig Erickson could be off to Indianapolis. Chris?
Well, and as Gary just said, they have to sign him. Ralph Cindrich represents Craig Erickson. It's going to be a deal that it can get done, but if Indianapolis tries to squeeze Erickson, there could be some trouble there. What's interesting is, as of yesterday, it looked like Indianapolis was willing to give up next year's #1 pick to get Craig Erickson, which is a great deal for Tampa Bay because after this year, Erickson would be an unrestricted free agent. All right, Chris.
All right, guys, thank you. The Indianapolis Colts had tipped their hand a few days ago saying that they had wanted Craig Erickson, so you didn't know if that's a deal buster, make it a little bit tougher for Tampa Bay to a little bigger price that they would get. But it looks like this will happen, and the Colts now would have a replacement for Jim Harbaugh at quarterback. Hadn't happened yet, but these are the trades that have happened. And boy, have they happened. Cincinnati Bengals got the #1 overall draft pick in exchange for moving their pick, giving their 5th overall draft pick and their pick in the early 2nd round to Carolina. They picked Kajana Carter. Rob Moore would have been a free agent at the end of this year, Pro Bowl receiver for the Jets, goes to the Arizona Cardinals, who need some offense and just got some. In exchange, the Jets get Ron Moore, so now they have every guy that ever ran the ball in the 90s for Arizona, with Johnny Johnson a couple of years ago, and Ron Moore now. A 1st-round pick of the Cardinals, which is 16th, and a 4th-round pick of the Cards, which is 106. Mark Brunell, you saw him play some in relief of Brett Favre when he got hurt. He's a pretty good-looking left-handed quarterback, and now Jacksonville has their young quarterback behind Furline. They get Mark Brunell, the Packers backup, for a 3 and a 5, and they signed him to a new deal, rumored to be about $1 million. That's a pretty good job by Brunell getting that sort of a dollar sign from Jacksonville. But now we get Jacksonville that's not looking quarterback at all here in this draft. But should Houston be looking quarterback here?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question in my mind that Houston's got to take Steve McNair. He is raw around the edges. I'll grant that. Maybe comes out of the competition in Division II schools where it isn't like it would be in the Division I. But he's just too darn talented to pass up. He's the kind of guy you have to have. And the reason why is Jerry Rome has just taken over as the offensive coordinator down in Houston. Jerry Rome's basis comes out of the Washington system. He was in Seattle for a while. I had a chance to be coached by Jerry Rome when I was in Washington, D.C. He knows the quarterback position. It's a perfect marriage for Steve McNair to go with Jerry Rome. He knows what he's doing. He can make the kid into something special. That's why I think it's very important. I think it would work out very well for Steve McNair to wind up in Houston.
And then we take a look at the Houston quarterback situation. They got Chris Chandler, the former everybody, but former Cardinal last year, who was Rome's guy.
That's right.
So he probably will start right now with Cody Carlson being the backup and Bucky Richardson third. Here's my question. When is Steve McNair really ready to step in to be a starting quarterback? Could it be in the 96 season? Could it be late this 95 season? What do you think?
I think what happens, he doesn't play at all in the 95 season. Doesn't play at all. He learns the system. He gets more comfortable with the National Football League. It's an orientation year. Year 2, he winds up spotting a little bit. And remember, Chris Chandler hasn't been the most healthy of quarterbacks, nor has Cody Carlson. So I would anticipate him not really planning to play in 96, but he might have to because of injury. I would say if you're looking at a timetable for Steve McNair, I would expect him to be the Houston Oilers quarterback in 1997. Now, what gets scary is after the 98 season, he's a free agent. So if you're going to pay $20 million now, it's probably going to cost you $40 million coming back up, Chris. So, I mean, you're investing some money in a young man, but he certainly is the kind of guy you're willing to spend some time on because he is and could well be your franchise quarterback.
A unique athlete for sure at that position. Chris Mortensen, has Houston got a big... Well, we'll go to Mort in a moment. I know he has lots of thoughts. You were looking marvelous there, Mort, but we'll go back down to Panther headquarters in just a moment. The pick has gone up to the podium. Well, the commissioner, his cab got caught in traffic, I think, which, by the way, has been known to happen here in New York. There's Steve McNair wondering if this is his spot. And, I mean, you look at the numbers at Steve McNair, which we'll talk about in just a moment. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. Maybe that's what the commissioner was looking at, his statistics at Alcorn State.
With the 3rd choice in the 1st round, the Houston Oilers select quarterback from Alcorn State, Steve McNair.
All right.
The Washington Redskins are now on the clock.
All right, they had the guts to pull the trigger. Steve McNair, 14,496 yards passing in 4 years. 2,300 yards running the football. Passing touchdowns and running touchdowns combined, 152 touchdowns. I don't care who he's playing against, Joe. That's unbelievable.
You bring up the most important point, Chris. He's so talented, it doesn't matter from a competition standpoint. Watch him go back in the pocket. Good, quick release over the middle. People say, well, he can't work from under the center. You saw him do that. Now in the shotgun. Nice pocket presence, steps up, good release. The athletic ability he has is unbelievable. Why not scramble right and throw back across the field? Reminds you of John Elway? Oh, just a little bit. Now he hangs in the pocket, slides up, great athletic ability. He pulls a hamstring on this play, but he stays in. And that's another thing about him. He's tough. He played the next week. Now he just waits in the pocket, gives the old I'm going right, no, I'm going left. Now I throw like Warren Moon for a touchdown. back in the pocket again. This is the only thing that's a little scary, is the fact that he can just throw wherever he wants. He throws it a little bit late down the field. Watch the receiver have to wait for the ball. He's going to have to work on his anticipation a little bit, but in my mind, that is the only thing that I think Steve McNair needs to really concentrate on. He may be raw around the edges, but diamonds are as well before they become very valuable stones.
Well, while we do some mining here in New York, and Steve McNair does some mining right there with the Houston Oilers. And again, we applaud the Oilers for having the conviction to pull the trigger here on a guy who can certainly pull the trigger. Now let's go back to Chris Mortensen, and I guess Floyd Reese was the one that won out at Houston, Mort.
That's right. And, you know, everybody thinks Steve McNair only played in the shotgun at Alcorn State, Chris, but that's not true. His first 2 years there, he played under the center, and very effectively. He had better receivers there, Torrance Small, Cedric Tillman. So he didn't go to the shotgun until he hurt his ankle, and then it worked so well out of the shotgun they just kept him there. Now, Jerry Rome has worked with young quarterbacks very effectively, as Joe mentioned. Troy Aikman in Dallas still gives a lot of praise to Jerry Rome for that first year. Rome, though, wanted Colorado wide receiver Michael Westbrook. He thought Westbrook was just going to be a big-timer. I tell you what, the Washington Redskins, next up on the board, they're going to take Michael Westbrook. Now, let's go to Chris Fowler in Buffalo.
More on this day that's dedicated to the evaluation of talent. It's interesting to note that Steve McNair out of high school was not offered a lot of scholarships by power programs to play quarterback. They wanted to have him, but as a defensive player, they were not willing to gamble and give him the chance to play quarterback. Interesting that the Houston Oilers are today. As for Kijana Carter, when he arrived at Penn State out of high school, he was only the third most highly regarded running back recruit the Lions had that year. Stephen Pitts and Mike Archie both considered better prospects at running back, so a lot of things can change in 3 years. Here they are, 2 out of the top 3 picks in the '95 draft. Boomer?
All right, Chris, thank you. The next team on the board is the Washington Redskins, and we understand the pick is in. Steve McNair is the first quarterback to be chosen in the first round from the SWAC since Doug Williams in the late 70s with the Buccaneers. The only quarterback ever to bring Tampa Bay to the playoffs, and a guy who won a Super Bowl ring with the Washington Redskins. That's McNair's pedigree. Here's the Redskins pick with the commissioner.
With the fourth choice in the first round, the Washington Redskins select wide receiver from Colorado, Michael Westbrook. The Carolinas are now on the clock.
We'll get more on McNair in a moment, but the wide receiver Michael Westbrook from Colorado, who started for several years, has the big, big hands. And this, frankly, just makes sense. You got a young quarterback in Heath Schuler. Let him get a great receiver to grow up with in Michael Westbrook. Joe, this makes sense for Norv Turner.
Well, the one thing that Norv Turner wanted, Chris, is he wanted a guy, when he got his hands on the football, could get down the field and put it in the end zone. Henry Ellard had a lot of catches last year for the Redskins. The problem is he couldn't really take it past where the catch was made. They feel like Michael Westbrook can. In this draft, he is the guy with the greatest upside, so much potential, so much athletic ability, and so much speed. There he is on a reverse against Oklahoma. Look at him running the open field. Sets up the block very well, goes up the field, picks up a lot of yards. Now he catches the ball over the middle. Great moves. You can't bring him down. He's got good quickness for a guy as big as he is. He also can get away from a bump and run center, and then you see the back of a chair. That's where Warren Sapp was sitting watching the Michael Westbrook film. And then Westbrook comes in, delivers the blow. And this is where you want to see him work, in the All-Star games. He's a tall guy, but he doesn't slip as the defensive back does on wet turf. Now, just flat-out speed. Gets down the field, ball's a little bit underthrown, he gets caught, but not too many people in the National Football League are going to catch him if he gets behind him. He is just a real, real talented young man.
And he had a 1,000-yard receiving year at Colorado in '92, as far back as that. Heath Schuler, wind up and fire to Michael Westbrook. We'll wind up and fire with the Panthers pick in a moment. Time since the common draft began in 1967. It happened in '71. Plunkett, Manning, Dan Pastorini to Houston in the third spot, just like McNair just went to Houston, and J.D. Hill. '83, Elway, Eric Dickerson, Kurt Warner, and Chris Hinton. And now it's happened in '95. Kijana Carter, Tony Baselli, Steve McNair, and Michael Westbrook. Steve McNair is with our Craig James. Craig?
And I would suspect a relieved guy. Steve McNair was the talk of college football last season. There were a lot of impressive numbers posted by this guy. Unbelievable numbers, matter of fact, that really propelled him to the #3 selection in this year's draft. 44 touchdown passes.
And, Steve, you look at all of those numbers. Do you say to yourself, wow, I did that, and I'm just thrilled to be here, or is your mind swimming right now?
Well, I'm glad this process is over with, and I can concentrate on just doing the things I got to do to prepare to be the quarterback in Houston. I couldn't have did it without the teammates that back home at Alcorn State University, coaching staff also, those guys who makes me as the quarterback that I am today.
Are there any former players that have been in the National Football League that have kind of advised you and helped you along the way?
Well, Doug Williams, being in the SWAC, he's been in the league and being a Super Bowl MVP, he's really led me the way to really, to get the process that I'm going through now. He made it easy for me and telling me how to cope with the things that it's going to be as a black quarterback in the National Football League.
All right, well, hang on here. The commissioner has another selection for us, Chris.
All right, Craig, here comes the commissioner. And don't think there's a lot of suspense here with the Panthers.
Geez, I wonder who.
With the fifth choice in the first round, the Carolina Panthers select quarterback from Penn State, Kerry Collins. St. Louis is now on the clock.
A pair of Penn State players going in the top 5. Let's go back over to Craig to wrap up with one of the 2 quarterbacks of the hour, Steve McNair. Craig?
Well, Chris, the thing about Steve, he's such in demand. He has taken off on us over here. He's already gone somewhere else. But the thing that he's going to have to do is really go in, listen, learn, establish himself as a person in the locker room. I think that's going to be the number one thing he needs to deal with, and Joe would attest to that, is the players have to believe in him. They have to say Steve McNair is a solid human being, and then from there he can learn the offense.
All right, Craig, thank you. There is Kerry Collins, undefeated Penn State. Now he'll go to the Carolina Panthers. They wear predominantly blue. I mean, he's used to wearing the blue.
A little darker blue.
Their uniform's a little more jazzy than Joe's out of Penn State, I would say. Second time, every year in the 90s, Joe, we've had 2 quarterbacks go in the first round. So this is the 6th straight year that 2, and we could have more, 2 quarterbacks have gone in the first round. Does Kerry Collins need the right situation? Or, I mean, he'll sit behind Frank Reich and take a lot of it in this year, won't he?
I think he's absolutely in the right situation. Just like I felt like Steve McNair is in the right situation in Houston, I think Kerry Collins is in the right situation. Does a nice job of setting up. He's got that little flick in his wrist, but as he told me, he said, I played with it all year. Nobody ever really said anything until I got into the All-Star games. There's a difference between the way the 2 of them release the ball. They both get it out, but look at the difference in grip. You see McNair's, how his finger is spread down. The only thing about Kerry is I'd like to see him open his hands up a little more, and these are the type of techniques that the coaches are going to work on. Here he is sitting tough in the pocket, makes the throw. I mean, his leadership skills are unbelievable. You say he can't move, he moves well enough to throw the touchdown, and he really throws a good deep ball. See how he leads the receiver and lets him run under it. One of the things I really like about him, probably more than anything, is his ability to throw the ball down the field. That is essentially what I think pro quarterbacks have to do and what coaches are looking for.
Let's get Mel Kiper in here. Now, a lot of teams may not have gone up to a number 5 spot and picked a Kerry Collins. Bill Polian, the name we kept hearing and talking with Bill as we do, Jim Kelly. That told us all we needed to know. He just loves Collins' skills, his leadership ability. Do you think this is too high, or will he be an outstanding pro player?
Well, Chris, I did a show back in October with Bill Polian, and he said point blank, you do not take a running back as an expansion team with the first pick in the draft. And he wanted a quarterback as the focal point. Kerry Collins is that type of player. We saw at the Senior Bowl the subtle difference between a Collins and a Steve McNair. Collins was a take-charge kid in the huddle, had a real presence out there. Steve's going to have to settle in slowly. Once he's familiar with the surroundings, maybe that take-charge ability will come out. But right now, Kerry is much more prepared to play at this stage of his career.
All right, so a pair of quarterbacks have gone 3 and 5. The St. Louis Rams, that's right, the St. Louis Rams are now on the clock, and they got some decisions to make, although Kevin Carter is sitting there. Could they go wide receiver in Joey Galloway? Those are choices, Chris Myers, as we join you in Dallas, that St. Louis is probably mulling over a little bit north of you right now.
They are, Chris. Carter a consideration. By the way, the St. Louis Rams still operating out of Anaheim. Steve Ortmeyer, Vice President of Operations, calling the decisions here, and he relates this draft to one of 1988 when some outstanding receivers like Michael Irvin and Sterling Sharp and Anthony Miller, someone that he drafted with San Diego, he relates that draft to this draft with Westbrook, J.J. Stokes, and Joey Galloway at the top of the Rams list because he can also help them with his return ability. And given the special teams background of Steve Ortmeyer, a former special teamer who also spent some time with the Raiders and Alexander Wright, it looks like Joey Galloway is at the top of their list if they don't go defense with Kevin Carter, the defensive lineman. The Rams have had at least 2 teams contact them about trading up into their spot. The Minnesota Vikings, one of those teams, also the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles would be interested in trading up to get the linebacker Mike Mamula. The owner of the Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie, so excited about his ability that he actually went to the workout at Boston College to watch Mamula. So the Eagles could be talking about trading up with the Rams, but Joey Galloway appears to be at the top of their list. Moments ago at the Dallas War Room, Jerry Jones, with one of his scouts, had a little gentlemanly wager about who the Washington Redskins were going to take, and that's when the first wide receiver was chosen, Michael Westbrook. Looks like Jerry didn't have that one called correctly. His scout beat him to the punch, and that leaves a couple of receiver choices, Stokes or Galloway, for Steve Ortmeyer and the St. Louis Rams. Let's go back now to Chris Berman in New York.
Oh, those backroom poker games in those war rooms. See, good thing we don't have the cameras in all of them on all the time. One little connection with the Rams for a moment. Deke Pollard, a coach on Dan Henning's staff with Mike Mamula, the player from BC, is now on Rich Brooks' staff with the Rams. He's interested in his player Mamula, so throw that into all of it. Penn State players, we've had a tandem in the top 5. Remember back in '83 when Kurt Warner went to the Seahawks, Todd Blackledge went to the Chiefs? It kind of looks like that, doesn't it? We'll be back.
It's as far as Michelin science has ever gone. Our biggest breakthrough since we invented the radial. Technology that brings us to a new level of performance, in good weather and bad. In the rain, in the snow. Technology so advanced, it even saves gas. The new energy tires with Radial XSE technology from Michelin. It's science that goes beyond.
Craig James likes to hang around with quarterbacks. I'm getting that feeling already. Just with Steve McNair. Now you're with Kerry Collins. You want the ball again, don't you, Pony?
Only if Tony Baselli's blocking in front of us. That's the only chance I have. About 5 of those guys there. The Maxwell Award winner, all the things that have happened to you, all of the numbers, the 66.7 completion percentage, 2,700 yards passing, the touchdowns, very few interceptions. This was a year, Joe Paterno said, you had as fine as any quarterback he's ever had at Penn State. What was the difference in this season?
I think it was the fact that I matured a lot from the previous season. I really kind of knew I always had the physical skills, but I think it was just a matter of having the mental preparation and the mental part of it come around, and I think once that happened, I was able to be really effective.
When you talk about your throwing skills, Joe Theismann just talking about the grip on the ball. I've heard you've been with Bill Walsh. What's going on out there?
Well, everybody made a big deal about the so-called hitch. It kind of took an identity of its own after the Senior Bowl, but you talk to a lot of NFL scouts in the past month or so, there wasn't that much talk about it, and unfortunately the Carolina Panthers didn't think so, and I'm just happy to that they think enough of me to take me with the 5th pick.
Isn't it one of those deals that you threw for all those touchdowns, just don't fix what's not broken?
Yeah, I guess it is a little bit. I didn't change the way I threw. There might have been some things that I eliminated that were unnecessary throughout the course of the season, that maybe that I'd gotten a little sloppy, but everything's fine, and obviously with the size I was picked, I think that's pretty evident.
All right, Lee Steinberg, his agent, standing by here. We'll get back and visit with Lee here in just a moment. But Chris, it's one of those deals where if it isn't fixed, why work on something that's just not broken?
All right, Craig, thank you. And Kerry Collins wearing the Panthers colors. Bill Polian down at Carolina has had his eye on him all fall, all spring, and Chris Mortensen. The Panthers have their man.
That's right, Chris. I remember calling the Polian residence, I think on Rose Bowl, when Penn State was playing Oregon, and his wife Eileen, of course, was ecstatic about Kerry Collins. Bill, no doubt, the Carolina Panthers, and you are too.
Well, we are. We're very happy. Mr. Richardson, Dom, Mike, Dom and Ely, all of us felt that Kerry Collins was the man that could lead us for the long haul. We felt that a quarterback was the cornerstone of the franchise. Kajana Carter's a magnificent player. Steve McNair is a magnificent player. We felt we had to have a quarterback, and Kerry Collins is our guy, and we're thrilled.
At the same time, the last expansion team that had the #1 pick, I think, Seattle Seahawks, traded the rights to Tony Dorsett. Could one day you regret trading this pick?
Well, I don't think you can ever predict what's going to happen in the future, and that's clearly a famous or infamous trade, depending on where you look at it from. But I think in the long run, we're real happy with Kerry Collins, and we think he's a guy we can build around.
And yet Kerry Collins, the criticism about him was a hitch in his delivery. What do you respond to critics that say he had a hitch in his delivery?
Well, we went over the films very carefully in slow motion. We timed the delivery. We timed it against people like Jim Kelly and others in the NFL, and it's fine. That's not a problem.
Well, the Carolina Panthers have their quarterback for the future. Let's go back to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, guys, a hitch in the delivery. I think it's a hitch in the giddy-up. Kerry Collins will be quarterbacking the Carolina Panthers one day. The St. Louis Rams have 4.5 minutes to make their selection. We'll be back.
Now.
Back in New York, we've had 5 picks, and the St. Louis Rams have 2 minutes and 18 seconds to make their first pick. This is a possible trade spot with Kevin Carter and Mike Mamula available. Let's go quickly to Mark Malone in Philadelphia. Are the Eagles one of those that are trying to work a trademark?
No doubt about it, Chris. Ray Rhodes told us he'd be working the phones to try to get up all day long. The guys he likes, you mentioned Mamula, Carter, Ellis Johnson, those are players that he'd like to come away with his first round having. Now, Mike Mamula, if he could get him, would probably play outside. That would free up Bill Romanowski to come inside and play inside linebacker. Ray Rhodes is familiar, thinks he can do it there, and it might be a very interesting move if they can pull it off. Chris?
All right, Mark, thank you. So there are now about a minute and a half left, and the card is on its way up to the podium. We have to look at the color to see if it's a trade card, but see if the Rams keep it.
With the 6th choice in the first round, the St. Louis Rams select the defensive end from the University of Florida, Kevin Carter. Tampa Bay is now on the clock.
There's a pretty wide smile for a pretty big young man. Kevin Carter, defensive end from Florida, goes to the Rams, who now enter St. Louis with a Thunder up front. Sean Gilbert, a fine player, a very high draft pick a couple years ago. Robert Young, Jimmy Jones signed a year ago, the handyman from the Dallas Cowboys. This is a team in a division with the San Francisco 49ers who throw the ball. This is a team, Mel, that now can seriously rush the passer. Carter is a behemoth.
He is the 3rd best player on my board, Chris, behind Kajana Carter and Tony Baselli, and you get him at the 6th spot, and you're talking about a possible fearsome foursome being developed with the Rams. Watch Carter here, number 57, runs a 4.67 at 273 pounds, cat-like quickness, can get to the sidelines, chase down that running back. But it's a pass rusher that got him up to this point. Here he is at the Hula Bowl, moving in for the sack against Rob Johnson. They did that all game in the Hula Bowl. Here against Tennessee, you see the ability to play through the block and then chase down. Once he separates, he'll turn on that 4.67 speed and get the quarterback. Again, in the Hula Bowl, unblocked. That's an easy one. That's a gimme against Johnson, but it still showcases what makes the pass rushers in the NFL either average or great, is that ability to not only separate, but close, and that's why Kevin Carter is viewed as a possibility for that 13 to 17 sack area, Chris, in the National Football League.
Well, that number 1 looks pretty small when he holds it up right there, doesn't it? Warren Sapp now becomes one of the men of the hour. Now let's say this thus far. The way the draft has gone down, Warren Sapp, no matter what happened yesterday or no matter what did not happen, would not have gone anywhere yet.
Right.
I mean, it's possible the Rams could have picked him, but there is nothing that has made him drop at this point. Tampa Bay, now these become the slots where Tampa Bay either will go with Warren Sapp, a team might call the Buccaneers and move up and take Warren Sapp, or that he might slide a little bit. But thus far, Mel, nothing has happened the way McNair has gone to Houston and Collins to Carolina, etc., that has changed his position. Am I right?
No, not at all. And, of course, with Tampa Bay, you're talking about a team that would consider Warren Sapp. But the problem is when you have those allegations, and if a team has players that are close enough, like an Ellis Johnson from Florida, a Mike Mamula from Boston College, 2 high-character individuals, very consistent football players. If they're close with Sapp, all of a sudden that's enough to push him back a little bit and force Tampa Bay to either go with an Ellis Johnson or a Mike Mamula over a Warren Sapp, especially for a Buccaneer team with Sam Weiss that's really under the gun to do a good job.
All right, well, now the Buccaneers are on the clock. Let's head to Florida. We're just up the pike from Tampa Bay. In Jacksonville is Andrea Kramer. Andrea, what's brewing right now?
Well, going back to the Rams for a second, Chris, yes, they liked Galloway. They liked his speed. However, they felt that there was simply more of a need on the defensive side of the ball. The 2 highest-rated defensive players they had, Kevin Carter and Warren Sapp, who you've been talking about all morning, I don't know if we can say that they didn't take Sapp because of the drug allegations. Steve Ortmeyer told me this morning that they had done their own background checks on him, and that wasn't going to be a factor. However, if they had taken Sapp, they would have moved Sean Gilbert to defensive end. This way, they keep him at tackle. They put Kevin Carter out at defensive end. They also just signed free agent Keith McCants, which they're going to put at defensive end. So they got, as far as they're concerned, the Rams, their top-rated player on the board, on the defensive board, and that is Kevin Carter. And, by the way, watching it in the Rams in the draft room is the new partial owner, Stan Kroenke. You got to be sure that he's happy with Kevin Carter. Chris?
All right, Andrea, thank you. Kevin Carter to the Rams, the first defensive player chosen here. The last time the Rams took a first-round player from Florida, 1971. He played the same position. His name was Jack Youngblood. He was pretty good last time I checked. Warren Sapp, does he go in the next selection or three? We'll be back in New York in a moment. 5 of them offense, and Kevin Carter, the first defensive player who has gone to the St. Louis Rams. Tampa Bay, Seattle are the next one on the clock, with the Jets and Cleveland following up. So those are the next 4 teams that are up. Let's go to Craig James right now. Craig?
Well, Chris, Warren Sapp, a hot topic. I just visited with his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, who said the Rams had told him they would take Warren Sapp. You have to wonder if these allegations hurt there. He also said don't be surprised to see a team like the Raiders maybe make a move to come up. That'd be a great choice by the Raiders, and we all know Al Davis. He's the kind of guy that has the guts to go ahead and make a decision to take Warren Sapp.
Well, there may be some calls that Tampa Bay is entertaining, Craig, as you mentioned, from teams who would not normally be calling in this slot. As the Buccaneers continue on the clock with 8:40 to go, let's check in with Chris Mortensen down at Panther headquarters in South Carolina. Mort?
Well, Chris, as we take a look at Warren Sapp and just Dennis Erickson mentioning rumors and Drew Rosenhaus, false reports, you have to remember these reports are coming from NFL Security, which is the investigative branch of the league, as they delivered the reports to all the teams who inquired about Sapp. And they did this late yesterday, and that was the one thing that bothered some of the teams, is that this information came so late, and why. But it's NFL Security that provided this information to the teams. It's not a media rumor, so to speak, Chris.
All right, Mort. Tampa Bay. This is a team that since 1982 has not made the playoffs. This is a team that, although they had a nice run to finish the end of last year, has not lost less than 10 games since the 1983 season. Defense, a reason why.
Absolutely. We had 20 sacks last year. No player had more than 4, 28th ranked. Interceptions, 28th. Yards rushing allowed, 27th. Yards rushing a game, 26th. Takeaways, 26th. Only 21 in the entire year. I definitely think that Sapp would not be a bad player to take here. Everybody wonders, are these allegations true? Are they not? Rusty Tillman is now the defensive coordinator in Tampa Bay. He will turn around the defense. They will be a better football team. I think if anything else regarding Warren Sapp comes out of this, he's got to be scared a little bit to find out the scrutiny that a National Football player goes under. If he did do anything before, he's going to have to be really careful to do it in the future if he decides to do it. If not, then he won't have anything to worry about. I personally think that Sapp would be a very good choice for Tampa Bay right here. It wouldn't hurt him.
And they probably didn't expect him to maybe get down to this slot. They're taking all the time. Let's go down to Gary Danielson and see if he can kind of listen in behind closed doors at Tampa Bay. Gary?
This is really a team that's going to use all their time with the clock. They're going to entertain moves down now. They know there's a lot of depth at defensive line. They took care of their offense with Alvin Harper, Trent Dilfer, Eric Rett, but as we looked earlier in the war room, we saw the guys in the war room, Rich McKay, Sam Weish, and defensive line coach Tom Pratt. They're getting together to discuss the depth at defensive line. I think Warren Sapp would be a great pick for them also, but it would not surprise me if they moved down with this pick. Rich McKay told me yesterday, though, that he's not going to trade down and get nothing. He would want at least a high number 2 to move down in this position. Chris?
All right, Gary, one thing we should all remember when we're deciding and where Warren Sapp goes, etc., decisions that you make as a young man or a young woman at 21 or 22 years of age aren't necessarily the ones you make at 25 or at 28 or at 31. That's something that football teams have to think about right now. The Lombardi Award winner, Warren Sapp, we know what kind of football player he is. Does he go right here? right, back in New York, under 4 minutes to go for the first-round selection, the 7th overall of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 5 offense, 1 defense. The Buccaneers have reached a tentative agreement on a trade that would send their veteran quarterback, Craig Erickson, to the Indianapolis Colts. The terms of the deal not yet come out because it's contingent on Erickson coming to a contract agreement with the Colts, which, to our knowledge, at this point is being worked on, but has not yet happened. Dilfer would be the second year, Mel and Joe, second-year quarterback for Tampa Bay, only played a little bit behind Erickson last year. Is it time for him, or are the Bucs making a move too soon if they do this?
I think it's a great move if this trade is consummated, Chris. You forget the stats on Dilfer. He was a young kid, should have been back at Fresno State, had that extra year. He came out early, needed to be developed, but he's got great talent. Sam Weiss really thinks highly of Trent Dilfer. The key to this trade is that Craig Erickson becomes a free agent, unrestricted free agent, if he would sign that 1-year deal and remain at Tampa. Then next year, Tampa Bay figures to be right around that 500 mark, would lose Craig Erickson with no compensation. Here, they dish him off to the Colts, who desperately need a quarterback. And I'm not going to get into that Bill Tobin nonsense here, but it's ironic that these two teams are going to be talking quarterbacks here. But as far as Trent Dilfer is concerned, he's the man. He's been working out 3 to 4 days every day with Alvin Harper, getting coaching from their quarterback instructor down there, Turk Schonert, and they feel Dilfer now. He doesn't have that glazy-eyed look when they ask him a question about the game plan or plays or whatever. He's ready to roll, and it's a key year for Trent Dilfer.
All right, well, with about 2 minutes, a little and change left on the clock, we have word that there may be a trade in this spot, which doesn't surprise us, because the defensive line, the pass rusher, the home run hitter type, this is what all teams covet, and this is the spot where Warren Sapp, Mike Mamula, or some other names a little bit farther down the line, Ellis Johnson, they come into play. And teams like a Philadelphia, teams like a Minnesota, teams that think that they need some help there, know that the players are there that they want at number 7. So as we wait for the card, now we don't know if the card has gone up yet, because conveniently the podium is 180 degrees behind my head, and I'm not going to show a national audience the back and the top of my head. Okay? That's just the way it works. and everybody here backs me up.
They're clamoring for it. They want to see it.
Later on, in the 4th. Oh, I'm 40 in a couple weeks. Give me a break, you know? About 2 minutes left on the clock for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, followed by Seattle, followed by the Jets. Let's go to the commissioner now and see what happens.
We've had a trade between Tampa Bay and Philadelphia. Tampa Bay has traded to Philadelphia this pick, first choice in the 7th round, as well as Tampa Bay's 3rd round pick, which is the 72nd, 7-2 overall. In return, Tampa Bay gets Philadelphia's choice in the 1st round, which is number 12, Philadelphia's choice in the 2nd round, which is number 43, and Philadelphia's additional choice in the 2nd round, which is number 63. So Philadelphia is now on the clock. And Philadelphia has now made a selection with the 7th pick just acquired from Tampa Bay. The Eagles select defensive end from Boston College, Mike Mamula.
All right, the Eagles have pulled the trigger.
Mike Mamula from Boston College.
Mike Mamula, the pick from Boston College. The Eagles have pulled the trigger. They had 3 second-round picks going into this draft. To make a move like that, they just spent 2 of them. Let's go down to Mark Malone and find out the Eagles didn't wait long on getting their man Mamula. Mark?
Thanks, Chris. No, they certainly didn't. Ray Rhodes, you said today that you would work the phones as much as you possibly could to get a defensive lineman. Mike Mamula was there, along with some other guys you liked. Why Mamula?
Well, first of all, I went to the draft. I had a chance to work Mamula out, and I was very impressed. And I felt in order for the Philadelphia Eagles to get over the hump here, we need to bring in a big-time pass rush, and Mamula fits that bill.
You now might have to move Romanowski inside. We had talked about that a little bit this morning. Is that something that will definitely happen?
That's a possibility. We're going to look at a whole lot of options and everything, but we're very excited about getting Mamula.
He's an impact player. Can he play linebacker? And everybody said he's kind of a tweener. Where will he play for you?
Well, right now he's going to be a rush end for us, but he can also play linebacker. He has great movement, and I think he's a great football player.
Now, there were a lot of players still available. Ellis Johnson was still out there. Warren Sapp. how much of the information that trickled down today made it difficult to take Sapp, or did Mike Mamula make that choice easy for you?
Well, first of all, Mamula is one of the guys we were targeted to go after in the draft. He was our number one choice of guys to go after, and we're able to get the things accomplished.
You told me you had a price that you wanted to pay to try to move up. Did you pay what you wanted, or did you end up paying a little bit more than you'd like to?
Well, you know, that's to be debated. You know, I mean, first of all, when you want a player, you go after him. And this is the player we wanted, and we went after him.
All right, Coach, thank you very much. The first pick with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm sure he'll be a great one. Right now, let's send it down to Gary Danielson.
Rich McKay said going into this draft he did not want to fall in love with any one player, and really that's what's happened. They were, I think, surprised that Warren Sapp was there, but they were hoping that Kevin Carter was there. St. Louis took Kevin Carter right in front.
Fans are ready. And apparently the Jets
with the ninth pick in the first round, the New York Jets select tight end from Penn State, Kyle Brady. Cleveland is now on the board with a choice acquired from Atlanta.
Ladies and gentlemen, our first real upset, I think, at this point in the draft. Not that Kyle Brady is a reach. He's a unique player at tight end. But the Jets, who drafted a couple of years ago Johnny Mitchell as a tight end, now he really becomes Richard Castor or Jerome Barkham. Guys that played tight end, and now Johnny Mitchell, I guess, if they keep them both, will be a wide receiver. He could do that. This could be Castor or Barkham reincarnated. Surprised?
I'm shocked. Johnny Mitchell cannot be a wide receiver. J.J. Stokes is a wide receiver.
I understand.
Michael Westbrook is a wide receiver. Johnny Mitchell is not a wide receiver. To me, this is the first upset. It just doesn't seem to make sense unless Rich Kotite has got some kind of plans that nobody knows about. They go two tight ends, maybe. Maybe Boomer Esiason wants to work to a tight end. I'm not sure exactly what they want to do because it doesn't seem to fill a need for them. Certainly Sapp would have been a legitimate choice. Certainly J.J. Stokes would have been a legitimate choice. From all the research we've done, all of a sudden now he takes a Kyle Brady, and you got to wonder, why?
Well, he blocks, Mel. Let's start with that.
He does. He's a good football player. I mean, it is a surprise he didn't take J.J. Stokes, but Kyle Brady is a fine football player. Work him into the mix. Really, it's 6'6" and a quarter, 260 pounds. He can do one thing that Johnny Mitchell really didn't want to do, and that's block. And when you look at the young wide receivers the Jets have, obviously Rich Kotite has a lot of confidence in Orlando Parker, Ryan Yarbrough, and Stevie Anderson. He's obviously going to look to bring in some wide receivers down the road as well. So it is a surprising pick, but at least it's a good football player, Chris.
Oh, yeah. No question about that. Penn State with 3 first-round selections for the first time ever, 3 in the first 9. Hank Goldberg, the Jets had some success some years back when they had a tight end from Penn State named Mickey Schuler. But Brady and Johnny Mitchell on the same squad. What's the reaction out there at Jets headquarters?
I think we're all a little bit flabbergasted right now, and I don't know what the plans are for Mitchell. I did see Richie Kotite having dinner with him in a Miami restaurant about a month ago, and I don't think he was telling him at the time we're drafting Kyle Brady. But it's certainly going to be interesting to see what they do with the next pick based on what their need is at this time and what kind of offense. We'll have to talk with Richie, and we'll get him down here and find out just what the thinking was, Chris.
Well, no, it's certainly a curveball. No question about Kyle Brady's ability, because we thought he might go to the next spot at Cleveland, and certainly Buffalo, a few spots down, was looking at him as well, but he's now a Jet.
He is a Jet, and he's a heck of a football player. Chris, you watch him here. He can block. He can get off the line of scrimmage, get into those hook zones, and make the reception, and that's what you really want a big tight end in the NFL to do. People say he's slow. He ran 4.72 at 260 pounds. That's not slow. Certainly, he's not a great deep threat, but you don't need that. You need a tight end that can block, get off the line. Watch the hands. Look at that. Well, it pulls it in for a big kid, very agile in the upper body. You know, like I said before, Chris, at least it's not a guy that was projected as the 31st best player in the draft that they're taking over J.J. Stokes. They're taking a good player. How he meshes into this football team is going to be the challenge of Rich Kotite and his offensive staff.
So Kyle Brady, the first real curveball here in the 1995 draft. J-E-T-S, question mark, question mark, question mark. They get a great player. The fans are mulling it over. We'll be back. All right, back in New York, the 10th team is on the clock, the Cleveland Browns, who were certainly looking at tight end Kyle Brady
to be under the tutelage of Ozzie Newsome, the last tight end they took in the first round many years ago, and to expand that offense. Let's go down to Andrea Kramer at Jacksonville, and I know, Andrea, that the Browns now have gone back and are working feverishly on their draft board. This is a shocker to them.
A shocker, or as I think Hank Goldberg just used the word flabbergasted, I think they are totally shocked and really in disarray. I don't think they expected this at all. They have still on their board Ellis Johnson at their board at 10. Ellis Johnson, and they talked about Warren Sapp all along. However, they had told me earlier that they wouldn't take Sapp at 10. Now they may have to reconsider. There's also a chance of moving down, but I think right now they are feverishly, as you used it, Chris, trying to decide what to do. They don't have defensive tackles, as you guys just mentioned, and Ellis Johnson was up there. So the guy they really wanted to move up for, of course, was Mike Mamula. They didn't have the firepower to do so without a second-round pick. So now they're sitting there, and they are making a lot of quick decisions. Let's go out to the Jets on Long Island and Hank Goldberg.
Andrea, there's a little bit of a buzz here that perhaps the Jets aren't finished. You know, one thing about Richie Kotite, he has cleaned out a lot of guys here who he thinks weren't convinced that they wanted to be Jets, Rob Moore being the latest one. So he's not afraid to pull the trigger on a deal like this, and perhaps Mitchell may be the next to go. That is a distinct possibility, and Cleveland's next. That's another possibility, Cleveland needing a tight end. Remember, Luther Ellis is still on the board for the Jets, another defensive lineman who they like. Back to New York.
Hank, that this may be, you know, they pulled a big move yesterday, a surprise pick today. They have another first-round pick coming up, 6 picks down the board. And Richie may be cleaning the house a little bit, but we shall see. Warren Sapp is there. Michael Dean Perry, James Jones tackles. Cleveland Browns now gone, both to Denver. This certainly would fit. Before we get Joe teed off on that subject, let's hit it over to Craig James. Craig?
Well, I'm with a surprise guy, Kyle Brady.
I'm very surprised, actually. I mean, I'm very thankful that I'm here. Thank God that I'm here, but I thought I was going to the Browns. I was almost positive, and the Jets shocked me with a phone call, and I couldn't be more surprised, no doubt about it.
How about the fans, Jets fans in here?
Oh, they're tough, man. I'll tell you, I've never been booed before in my life. I come into New York, you know, the whole place is putting on a good time for us, and the fans boo me, so I guess I'll have to get used to it. You know, New York people are tough.
You got to get used to that left-handed pass from Boomer Esiason, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm used to some bullets from Kerry Collins, but I wouldn't mind catching him from Boomer. I hear a lot of he's a great quarterback, and just have to get used to that left-handed spin.
Get used to the fans, too.
Oh, you're right. I'm going to have to go up here and make some friends if I can.
All right, Chris, I'll tell you this. Jets fans will love this guy. I guarantee you he goes to the Pro Bowl.
All right, Craig, yeah, 3 or 4 games in, there won't be booze for Kyle Brady. He's a really nice football player. Just surprised that he went, like everybody else, to number 9 of the Jets. Mort, your take on what's going on here with the Jets.
Well, like all kinds of possibilities going on now, like Andrea mentioned, you all have mentioned. You know, Ellis Johnson is certainly a possibility here, Sapp, but the L.A. Raiders want to move up into this spot right now to take Tyrone Wheatley of Michigan, and it's going to be interesting to see if, in fact, the Raiders can convince the Browns to trade out of that spot right now, Chris.
Well, the Raiders have also talked to the Saints about trading up in the 13th spot for Tyrone Wheatley. But more, one other item here, Cleveland, which chooses ahead of Minnesota and Tampa, of course, thinking defensive line. Both Minnesota and Tampa like Ellis Johnson. The Buccaneers discussing a trade with the Browns about possibly trading up ahead of the Vikings in Cleveland spot to pick Ellis Johnson. The Saints at 13 also thinking defense would like Ellis Johnson as well. Let's go back now to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, Chris, thank you very large. Cleveland and Minnesota, 2 teams that certainly could be looking D-line are the next 2 on the board. We shall see. Stay with us, please. New York, Bristol, and beyond. We're everywhere. 2 hours into the 60th annual NFL Draft, and it's been an intriguing first couple of hours. Rich Kotite's first draft as head coach of the New York Jets, a team he used to be an assistant coach for. When he was head coach with the Eagles, the 4 years there, 41 total selection, 19 on the Eagles, 8 of them starters, as yet no Pro Bowlers. Just took a tight end, Kyle Brady. But this is a new era for both Kotite and for the Jets, and he surprised everybody by going with Kyle Brady. He's with our Hank Goldberg now at Jets headquarters. Hank?
Well, Richie, you sprung the first upset of the day in the draft. When did you start thinking about Brady, and where does Mitchell stand? That's the second part of the question.
Well, Mitchell is very important to us. I think to have 2 great tight ends is very important to us and the things we're going to do offensively. Very few teams have 1 outstanding tight end, but he was rated so high on our board that at this point we couldn't pass him up.
You know, when we talked before, you talked about, and you've been quoted as comparing Sapp with Jerome Brown, or, you know, you had Jerome, that he might be that kind of player, and Sapp is still there. I've got to ask you about the team's attitude towards him.
Well, you know, there are a lot of similarities, and he's an outstanding player, but the two guys I was talking about basically were Carter and Mamula. And when they came off the board, we felt that getting Brady was the best thing for us. I don't think anyone can dispute the talent. He's outstanding tight end, maybe one of the finest to come out in recent years, and I think he's going to fit in very well here. He's a great blocker. He's an outstanding receiver, and with the type of movement that Johnny Mitchell has, that will give us a lot of different things we can do with Johnny Mitchell.
Did the situation with Sapp make him not possible?
No, I don't think that's true. I think you have to go how your people are rated on the board, and we had Brady so high that we took him.
What about the wide receiver position now? You still haven't dealt with that.
No, we haven't at this point, but it's still certainly a possibility. We still have a lot of picks. We still got another number one, but I'm confident that we'll get a receiver that's going to help us, and I'm just thrilled that we have two tight ends that can apply a lot of pressure to defenses.
Okay, Richie, thanks very much.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk to you later.
Thank you.
Okay, back to you in New York.
All right, Richie and Hank, thank you very much. Just a thought on the Jets. You say that, and Richie Kotite said that two tight ends are very important. Last year, the Jets kind of went away from what Boomer Esiason does best. Play action. There's nobody better in football at quarterback than Boomer Esiason to play action. Two good tight ends, one who can move down the field a little bit, might play into his hands a little bit and use his strength. That's just a thought after hearing Kotite say that Mitchell is big in their plans. Now, what about Cleveland's plans, Joe? Well, they lost their tackles. Here's Sapp.
One quick thing on the Jets. J.J. Stokes is probably going to be there for their next pick. The Cleveland Browns have built their football team from inside out. Guys from big schools, two from Michigan, one from Alabama, one from Stanford, one from UCLA. Turner, Vardell, Everett inside, Langham outside, and then Alexander. I think that they wanted Kyle Brady. Absolutely, they wanted that tight end. But don't be surprised if they don't take a linebacker, maybe a Craig Powell out of Florida State, guy with a lot of speed. Obviously, because of the unique situation of the Jets draft, you also could see Cleveland trade out. They don't have a second round. Maybe they could pick up somebody there. Bruner's a tight end there. I'm not 100% convinced that they think he's the guy. I think they could go defensive line with Ellis Johnson or possibly Craig Powell to fill in where they want to be. They've been taking people from big schools. I think they'll stay that way.
Well, the Browns are on the clock. Their clock is about run up. The pick is there. Cleveland has an interesting decision to make. Let's go to the commissioner. Yeah, they're mulling over it. Now, could it be a pronunciation? See, now we get to the point where is it a pronunciation question? Well, we'll know in a minute.
Two pieces of paper.
We've had a trade and a pick. San Francisco 49ers acquired Cleveland's choice.
Oh.
And San Francisco selected wide receiver from UCLA, J.J. Stokes. Minnesota is next on the clock with a pick acquired from Denver through Atlanta. On a trade, Cleveland acquires San Francisco's first-round pick this year, the 30th pick. San Francisco's third-round pick this year, the 94th pick. Kansas City's fourth-round pick this year, number 119. And San Francisco's first-round pick in 96.
Wow. Well, let me say this about the San Francisco 49ers. They move quicker because there's no way they knew Stokes would be there at 10 until the Jets picked Brady. So in 10 minutes, the 49ers made this move, drafted it up, because they know that John Taylor is reaching the end of his great productivity. They've got a guy like Stokes. Now, this is very similar to a move they made in 1985 when the slot opened at 16 for Jerry Rice and Bill Walsh moved up. Jerry Rice is the greatest receiver in the history of the National Football League. This was 1985 when Rice was there. Eddie Brown and Al Toon went ahead of him. Rice was picked with the 16th selection, and they haven't looked back ever since. This is an amazing move by the 49ers, and this was the highest that they thought they could get. With a possibility of Tampa, but this was They said, boy, we'll have to put together a lot of things. Now, keep another thing in mind. Cap numbers. They trade a lot of picks. So they just sign one guy, and they don't have to spend for a lot of other players. So it also adds into their economics, Mel.
One thing, too, Chris, Jerry Rice, we know he's a Hall of Famer, but he's not 25 anymore. And you got to think for the future, and you have to look at depth on the San Francisco 49er football team. Nate Singleton, who came over from the Giants. They lose Ed McCaffrey in free agency. Like I said, they need somebody to groom and work into that rotation with John Taylor and Jerry Rice, and certainly J.J. Stokes. It seems like it's great to be the third receiver pick. Mort mentioned Michael Irvin, third behind Sharp and Timmy Brown, and, of course, Jerry Rice. The speed factor pushed him down. The speed factor pushed J.J. Stokes to the point where they could trade up. So the 49ers know what they're doing, Chris.
Jerry Rice was the replacement to Freddie Solomon, a very productive receiver. Freddie Solomon and Dwight Clark were the receivers. They're interesting to note. Dwight Clark, one of the men pulling the strings these days for the San Francisco 49ers. But Carmen Policy really pulls them. Let's go out to 49ers headquarters at 4949 Centennial Boulevard in Santa Clara, California, and join our Leslie Visser. Leslie.
Hi, Chris. Kind of an early blockbuster, and here's the man who made the deal. Can you talk? What were the factors of this trade?
Well, I think from the beginning, as strange as it may sound, George Seifert was pounding the table for offense, offense, offense. And we've had our eye on J.J. Stokes for approximately 7 months. And he visited us in San Diego after our game against the Chargers toward the end of the season last year. And again, he did nothing but impress us throughout the entire postseason period and the offseason. And when we saw the opportunity to reach out and grab him, so to speak, at the 10th pick, we just had to do whatever it took to get it done.
It's almost unheard of for the 49ers to trade a future pick. How did you determine that was applicable?
I don't think we've ever traded our future first-round pick. But when you're at the 30th spot, it appeared as though you weren't going to get what we consider to be one of the 8 or 9 top players in the draft. And we paid a price, but we think the price is going to pay dividends.
And what does this mean? Many people will be wondering, what does this mean for John Taylor?
Well, I think John Taylor plays a role on this team, no question about it. And don't forget, there's more than 2 receivers on the team, and I think that being able to play with Jerry Rice and John Taylor will enhance and promote the development of J.J. Stokes.
Everyone said your needs were running back and an outside pass rusher. Will you look there next?
Well, with what we have left, we'll look there next.
Thank you, Carmen. Back to you.
Well, Leslie and Carmen, they don't have a lot of left in the pick department. Remember, they don't have their 2 because they lost that to Marquez Pope. Now they lose their 3. So we've seen the 49ers make their certainly first day and part of their second day draft. 18 out of 20 years, the 49ers have made some sort of move on draft day. Last year they went up, made a move with the Rams and got Bryant Young, and you saw what he did. We talked about the Jerry Rice deal. I remember a time in '82 when they swung Russ Francis from the Patriots. He became an integral part of their Super Bowl championship team in 1984. And last year, of course, we mentioned Young and Floyd. They took at their normal spot. So this is last year's draft. They had 2 first-round picks the year before. Dana Stubblefield, one of them. You saw what he has done for the team. So they have struck gold, no pun intended, last couple of years, and so often in the first round. The teams that are at the top, they're not just there because they just miraculously for 20 straight years have the best football players. They work the system quickly, and Joe, they got a heck of a receiver.
They really did. J.J. Stokes is probably the most complete receiver in this draft. He has everything except the blazing speed. 6 feet 4 1/2, 217 pounds. Does an excellent job down around the line, around the goal line. Watch him catch the ball, protects it as he goes in the end zone. Now he does a terrific job. Watch his feet. Just a little tap. See that right foot slide down. Knows exactly how to get in the end zone. He's really not that necessarily fast coming off the ball, but he can run away from people. You saw the big man go down and make a low ball catch, which is very difficult for wide receivers. He not only can catch the ball down low, but if necessary, he can go up high and take the ball away. Just has a lot of gifts, soft hands, physical off the line of scrimmage, and can make things happen. Now he breaks into the open field against Washington, and he shows the kind of speed that he doesn't show in 40 times. This is one of those rare players that plays faster than his 40 time. You put pads on him, you get a faster football player. J.J. Stokes is a real find for the 49ers.
Dwight Clark, Vinny Serrato, George Seifert, John McVay, Carmen Policy, all teaming up to make a very quick move and a wild one, Chris Mortensen, Stokes to the Niners.
That's right, Chris. You have to suspect that Bill Walsh maybe had been a factor in this one. IMG, which represents both J.J. Stokes and John Walsh, the BYU quarterback, had them both working with Bill Walsh in trying to prep them for this draft. And so I imagine Bill Walsh said, hey, J.J. Stokes might be a pretty good pick. Let's go to Mark Malone in Philadelphia.
Thanks, Mort. Just to add on the New York Jets situation, talking to Dick Haley, their player personnel guy, not too long ago after the original pick of Kyle Brady, he said obviously they're looking for a wide receiver to replace Rob Moore or a defensive person. The fact that San Francisco has now moved up really takes the real premier wide receivers out of the lot, and I would expect the New York Jets now will be going for a defensive player on that front seven. Let's go back to New York.
All right, Mark and Mort, the 49ers have made their move. Minnesota is next. First time we've seen 3 receivers this high since '88. Tim Brown, Sterling Sharp, Michael Irvin. They went then. They're all Pro Bowl players. We've had 3 go already. We'll be back.
Relax. It's dependable.
Relax. It's Ream.
Relax. It's enduring.
Now picks next, and remember that they have certainly lost one of their fine defensive tackles, Henry Thomas, signed as a free agent by the Detroit Lions. Let's go up to Brad Nessler and get the latest on the Vikings, who are on the clock right now with about 5.5 minutes to go. Brad?
All right, Chris, and that is the key point. Henry Thomas goes to the Detroit Lions as a free agent. The Vikings know they've got to fill that spot. Now, yesterday, when I talked to Roger Hedrick, the president of the team, I said, is there a defensive player worth moving up for? He said, probably Warren Sapp. I talked to Denny Green. Who's the guy that has the most impact defensively in this whole draft? He said Warren Sapp. Talked to Tony Dungy, the defensive coordinator, this morning, and said, Tony, what if he slips to number 11? He says, hey, the guy's never missed a practice. He's never slowed down in a game. If Warren Sapp falls to number 11, he personally would love to have him. So I think if the Minnesota Vikings aren't the perfect fit for Warren Sapp, that right now, that's almost an admission by them that these drug reports have had some sort of effect. They need a defensive tackle. He's the best one out there. We'll see what they do. Chris?
All right, Brad, thank you. About 4:40 to go on the Vikings pick, and then Tampa Bay is next. So, again, we're getting back to teams. Well, Minnesota here with the first of their 2 first-round selections. And the Buccaneers, who went down engineering that trade with Philadelphia, they again have to consider a player like Warren Sapp. Last year, Minnesota, we mentioned that they lost Henry Thomas, one of their tandem of tackles with John Randall. They lost some other defensive linemen. They've made changes in their secondary. They pick up a starter from the Patriots, Harlan Barnett. They do pick up the Sandman, Broderick Thomas, back from Detroit, who had a very good year at outside backer for Wayne Fonts, after not playing great at Tampa. So they hope that he can come in. But, Joe, this is a team, the Minnesota Vikings, that started off with a lot of sizzle, and then at the end, it just kind of faded out and had a bad playoff loss to the Bears.
You picture Warren Sapp just like a Henry Thomas.
Well, we'll go back in a minute because here the Vikings, they have made a selection. Joe, man, a few words.
Why not?
Funny, you see, now we just wanted to cut you off.
Look, he's gone.
Podium he's gone.
He was there. Anyway, what I was saying,
as you were saying,
as I was saying, Warren Sapp, in my opinion, fits perfectly for the Minnesota Vikings simply because you lose a Henry Thomas who's a shorter guy and a quick guy. Sapp would be an excellent tandem with John Randall.
With the 11th pick in the first round, the Minnesota Vikings select defensive end from Florida State, Derek Alexander.
Ooh.
Next selection will be by Tampa Bay, which is now on the clock with the choice acquired from Philadelphia.
Well, there's no mystery anymore. Derek Alexander is a fine player, but certainly was not as high up as Warren Sapp until all of this came out yesterday. Let's go to Craig James. Craig?
Absolutely right, Chris. There's no way you can rate Alexander as high as Warren Sapp. Warren, right now, the emotions.
I mean, it's just a tough situation. I'm just sitting here waiting around, but I mean, it's not that tough.
Drew Rosenhaus as the agent. What are you hearing on the phones right now?
Well, my phone's ringing right now, so I think it's going to be any second. Literally, this could be the key call. I think it's obvious he's going to be drafted very soon. I suspect it could be this call right now. Let's see.
Let's do it.
Hello, Rosenhaus. Yes. Yes, Jerry. Okay, you got it. I got to take this call, guys, okay?
All right. Well, obviously it is an important phone call, and we'll let you know just as soon as we can.
We're into phone tapping now here at ESPN. That's nice to know.
Well, this is just between you and me.
Derek Alexander. Now, Mel, this is a player who a week ago, in calling around the league and the personnel folks, had kind of gone down a little bit, but this week he kind of came back up. A lot of folks looked at a workout which wasn't great. Then they went back to the film room and saw what he did on the field. I think they changed their mind and he moved back up, correct?
Yes, they did, Chris. Very productive player, fiery player, consistent football player. Didn't work out at the combine. Then he goes to the individual workout session, and he really disappointed. Did not run the kind of time that people expected, did not show the kind of athletic ability people expected. But you watch him here coming off the corner, gets into the backfield, shows some quickness in a limited area. What he doesn't have is great closing speed, and that will hurt as a pass rusher in the NFL. What he does give you is some flexibility. Can move inside, over the center and guard, and play a defensive tackle spot. And that may be the way you see him, Chris, as an on or around the scrimmage type of player. Not a kind of player that can get you 10 to 15 sacks a year.
An interesting note, Mel, this is the second year in a row that Derek Alexander has gone in the first round. Of course, a different Derek Alexander, wide receiver Cleveland last year. Now this Derek Alexander goes to Minnesota. Let's go up to Brad Nessler, who's with the Vikings coach Dennis Green. Brad?
All right, Chris, thank you. So the Vikings have made their selection. You need help on the defensive line. I'll get around to Derek Alexander, but first I got to ask you about Warren Sapp. You're not the first guy that's going to have to answer this question. You lose a guy like Henry Thomas. You and I talked yesterday about the impact a guy like Sapp could have, and yet he was there and you didn't take him.
Well, Sarah Tuala will take Henry Thomas's place, and he's done that for us for 2 years when he's had to play as a backup. So we never go into the draft thinking about a need specifically. We had Derek Alexander rated very high. We had a lot of players ranked high. You know, there are a lot of good players still on the board. So we're excited about Derek Alexander. We brought him in here with about 14, 15 other guys, and we really kind of fell in love with him. We think he's a big, explosive player. What he brings to us is one thing we've been talking about for 3 years, a little bit bigger in the defensive line, I think. Particularly when you're playing against the good teams in the fourth quarter, I think Derek Alexander can make a big difference for us.
Well, you've had a hole there with Chris Dolman since he was gone the past year. Just one more thing about the tackle, and I don't mean to harp on this thing. Did the drug allegations about Warren Sapp have any bearing on your decision?
Not at all. We had 5 blue-chip players still on the board. We had to decide what would be the best guy to help us. And, again, there's some guys on the board right now that also, if Derek Alexander had been gone, we probably would have taken them, too. For us, it's all about ranking the players and then taking the guys we know can really help us.
You're going to try to move up again in the first round? You got number 24 yet?
Well, we got another pick, so we're still getting some calls, and we'll discuss it a little bit. I mean, I think that what we like is there's some players there because there were a few, I guess you'd quote, surprise picks in there. And so there are going to be some good players here. But if we sit tight at 24, like we did last year with the picks 19 and 20, we think we'll wind up with 2 very good football players.
All right, Denny, thanks.
You bet.
Denny Green, head coach of the Vikings. Tampa Bay's on the clock, and let's go down there to Gary Danielson. Gary?
All right, thanks, Brad. I believe it was Jerry Angelo, player personnel from Tampa, that was talking to Warren Sapp, and I'm going to bet you everything I got in my pocket. I wasn't a big quarterback. I got $21 in my pocket, but I say Tampa Bay takes Warren Sapp right now. Remember, they got a couple of second-round picks, and they got a guy that they didn't think would be there when they had the 8th pick in the draft. Now they're going to get him with a move down. I think it would be a great pick. And I recall a few years ago there were rumors about a guy named Dan Marino who fell all the way to the last pick of the first round with similar types of rumors about him. Turned out to be a pretty good football player. Chris?
Yeah, I would say that you went on a limb with that one, Gary. Let's go back to Craig James because, yes, it was a phone call that they had to take, wasn't it, Craig?
Absolutely, a very important phone call. Sam Weiss was on the phone there with Warren Sapp. Drew, are you surprised that Tampa Bay's the team?
Yeah, I'm surprised, yes. We didn't expect that they would. We had talked to them pretty extensively, but I didn't think they'd be the team. But we're elated because if he had to fall later than we thought he would go, at least he's in his home state. He's an hour and a half away from his hometown. He's in the right defensive scheme. And they have more Hurricanes on their NFL roster than any other club except for the Cowboys. So I'm happy for he and his family. They get to stay in the state of Florida. This is a Florida guy. So it's
Warren,
consolation.
Is this a situation where one of these days you're going to look back and say, hey, I told you so?
I mean, I'm just happy that, Bucks made this decision, and, I'm just ready to move on and play some ball right now.
You feel like you're a top 3 pick in this draft?
Right now, I'm Tampa's pick, for hopefully, and then we'll move on from there.
Did you ever expect to have something like this happen to you?
I mean, there's always somebody looking to knock you off a pedestal, so, it doesn't really bother me that much.
When you talk to the Buccaneers, did they try to do any kind of numbers with you right now to work something out?
Well, we have some parameters. We're going to have to get together in the next couple of days and iron the deal out, but I don't have any problem with that because, it'll be something secure for him, and we feel comfortable with the 12th slot, and we're happy to be in Florida. There's no state tax there, and the Bucks have a lot of money to spend, so he'll get a big share of that.
He's already looking out for you, Warren.
That's why I hired him, I guess.
All right, Boomer, a relieved Warren Sapp.
Yes, that's for sure, Craig. So Warren Sapp will go with the 12th overall pick to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Relief. How do you spell it? You're looking at it. to the NFL draft. About 2 hours and 15 minutes in, and we've seen some surprises, and we've seen the resolution of the question. Where does Warren Sapp go? We now know, although we have not had the official announcement yet, but I think we took you behind the scenes here, that Warren Sapp is about to be the first selection of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there is Warren. You just heard him with our Craig James. The card has come up to the commissioner, and the Buccaneers went down 5 slots, got some extra picks, and still got a guy they would have coveted at 7. Let's go to the podium.
With the 12th pick of the first round, Tampa Bay selects defensive tackle, University of Miami, Warren Sapp. New Orleans is now on the clock.
Well, let me say this, Joe. When it's all said and done about 4 or 5 years from now, all the defensive players that are going this draft, I'll put my money on Warren Sapp being the best player in the NFL.
I think when you were talking about the best players in this draft, I think Kajana Carter's name certainly came up, and the second guy came up was Warren Sapp. There wasn't any question about it. As a matter of fact, we talked about Warren Sapp going to Tampa Bay at the 7th pick. When Tampa Bay made the trade, all they did was move down, hoping that maybe Warren Sapp would be there. So this thing played out for Sam Weiss exactly the way he wanted. He got something for the move and still got the player that I think he coveted and wanted. Rusty Tillman's got to be excited, the new defensive coordinator, because now he's got somebody a little bit like Cortez Kennedy, who he had out in Seattle, to be able to move around and wreak havoc in offensive backfields.
Well, Mel, you mentioned Cortez Kennedy, Joe. Jerome Brown, Russell Maryland, all first-round picks, defensive tackle at Miami. Some say, I know Cortez is a great player. Jerome Brown, the late Jerome Brown, was a great player. Certainly Russell Maryland's a good player. Some say this could be the best one of them. His motor runs on every play, doesn't it?
Productive player, Chris, and what he does is fire up the entire club. You know, his club was trailing. The Hurricanes were trailing Florida State last year, 14-7. It was really his intensity which got this team moving, got him going, and really fired this football team up. And I think when you look at Warren Sapp, you have to believe the allegations obviously hurt. Minnesota would have taken him with all things being equal. He slides down to Tampa Bay, and what I think he's going to have to do is prove that at 6'1", 280, he can really carve a niche for a player that size, just like a Mike Singletary did as an undersized middle linebacker coming to the Chicago Bears.
Well, you saw the smile a minute ago, Mel, and there it is. It's been a very tough 24 hours for Warren, and it's going to be a tough 5-8 years for opposing teams in the NFC Central when they go up to play Sapp and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's go to Mike Gottfried at our ESPN headquarters in Bristol, Connecticut. Mike, no question about football ability on this young man.
Chris, I don't think there's any question, but I think he's better than Russell Maryland, but not quite in the league right now as Jerome Brown or Cortez Kennedy. Let's take a look at Warren Sapp. First of all, he has explosion off the ball. When the ball is snapped at Miami, you want the defensive tackles up the field. Here you see him get in the backfield, make a sack, force the quarterback down. He has great quickness. Second thing is he has great awareness. Now here he's going to put his hands up. He's being double teamed. Now he's going to get his hands up to deflect the ball against Florida State. Again, awareness and knows what's going on all the time. What you'll want out of a defensive tackle on the inside is to collapse the inside pockets. You see him collapse the inside pocket against Boston College, causing problems for the quarterback so that he can't see and force him out of the inside pocket.
All right, Coach, thank you. Warren Sapp now goes down to the big sombrero. Let's go down to Tampa Bay and join Gary with Coach Sam Weiss. Gary?
Thanks, Chris. Sam, I don't know if I want to play poker with you guys. You played it right down to the wire.
Well, this one goes to Rich McKay and all the guys, Tim Ruskell and Jerry Angelo and all the scouts that put a lot of time into this. But there's an element of luck in this draft, as there always is, every year is. And the fact that the story came out about Warren is no question about it. I called Warren on the phone, and we had a nice, frank talk, and I told him, man, I, along with the Buccaneers and the new owners, the Glazier family, are putting our faith in you, and we can't afford to let you let us down. And he promised me, you're not going to be let down, and that I believe him.
Was that right as you made the pick, or was that last night or this morning?
No, that was just now. That's who he was talking to on the phone right there. And I think it's important that a player and the coach have that heart-to-heart talk, and there's an element of, we're in the foxhole together kind of a deal. And I think as you've listened to other coaches talk, there's been a lot of coaches that said he's a great player. They had other needs. no one has really said that this guy is not somebody that can't come in and play for a long time in the NFL.
Did you ask him, or will he be required to submit to any special drug testing?
He will and wants to prove himself. When you come in like this, so exposed, so publicly being pointed to like this, I think it's in your favor to say, I want everybody to know that I can control myself. I have maybe stumped my toe, but I'm a different guy. I'm made a different fiber, and I'm going to prove it to my public.
All right, one last question. I know you were in the middle of that thing with Bill Walsh and Rosano about who took Montana. Why don't you clear it up?
Well, I tell you, can we go to sidebar on this one?
Chris Mortensen, we're going to sidebar on this.
Well, the thing about Warren Sapp is he's going to come into this league under a new drug plan, and the first step in that drug plan is that he would be asked, he would undergo evaluation, and after that evaluation, if they recommend testing or if they recommend outpatient or inpatient treatment, if he refused to do that, then there might be some sanctions. But the bottom line is Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, actually had him tested twice since the Indianapolis Scouting Combine, submitted that test to some clubs, and they were negative tests, and has all along has told clubs that Warren's willing to prove himself in any way possible that he is drug-free. Let's go back to Chris in New York.
All right, Mort, thank you. So Warren Sapp becomes the 12th pick in the draft. He goes to Tampa Bay, their first-round selection. New Orleans is next on the clock. There's the smile. We'll be back. NFL draft, the New Orleans Saints are on the clock, a little less than 8 minutes to go for their selection, and then the Buffalo Bills and the Indianapolis Colts are after them. Let's go to Dallas, to Chris Myers, who has some thought process on the Saints. They could go any one of three directions, I think, Chris.
Yeah, they've designated 5 top defensive players, and currently Ellis Johnson, defensive lineman from Florida, and the linebacker Mark Fields from Washington State are at the top of that list. But, Chris, they determined an hour ago that even though they need help on defense, and that's the area they want to go, that no way would they take Warren Sapp based on the information that's there, so they weren't going to select him anyway. There is a possibility the Saints could trade down and still get their defensive player. The Raiders have contacted them about possibly trading up to draft running back Tyrone Wheatley. The Giants, who choose ahead of the Raiders, are a team that also may be looking at running back. Now let's go back to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, Chris, thank you. While the Saints still deliberating, there's a little less than 7 minutes to go on their selection. It has been a 24 hours that certainly Warren Sapp and his confidants and his family and those surrounding him will not forget for a long time. 24 hours that must have seemed faster than a New York minute.
This past Thursday, April 20th, teams interested in Sapp asked for the NFL security background check run on the player. Chris Mortensen double-checked the sources before going on air with the story last night.
Their background check by NFL security has produced 7 positive drug tests by Sapp, 6 for marijuana, 1 for cocaine.
Also last night, ESPN's Chris Berman spoke with Seattle Seahawks coach Dennis Erickson by telephone. Erickson was Sapp's college coach. Erickson told Berman that Sapp had tested positive for marijuana twice during his college career, once during Sapp's freshman year, once during his senior year. Sapp's agent issued a blanket denial.
I'd say that report is totally false. Warren has never tested positive for any type of cocaine substance, nor has he ever had any multiple failures or positive tests for marijuana.
This morning, Erickson also denied the NFL security report cited by Mortensen.
The 7 positives, the cocaine, that's absolutely a lie and not true at all. And that did not, Warren Sapp did not, or was not, I should say, involved in those accusations.
Have either Sapp or his agent gotten in touch with you since ESPN went on the air with this report last night?
No, I have not talked to his agent or to Warren about this since you guys went on the air with it last night.
Did you talk last night with Dennis Erickson?
Yes, I did. You know, and I was trying to figure out where these things were coming from. Coach Erickson was obviously there, and he was shocked to hear these reports because these guys have been together, and there was never any problems.
Are you denying telling Chris Berman last night that Sapp twice tested positive for marijuana use at the University of Miami?
All I'm telling you is I cannot talk about any of the players at the University of Miami as far as drug testing is concerned. That's all I can tell you.
I don't think that there's a tremendous amount of concern. I think the teams that were interested in drafting Warren before the reports that surfaced last night are still going to take him. I still see him going in the top 10. Some of the teams with real thin skin, they might be scared away by this bogus media stuff. But, hey, that's fine because, you know, he wouldn't want to play for those guys anyhow.
All right, Warren, what about the 2 positive tests?
I mean, like we said, I mean, it's total fabrication. I mean, I don't even know where it's coming from. So, I mean, wherever somebody's getting it from, I mean, I just actually, you know, show some proof then, if that's what you say.
With the 12th pick in the first round, Tampa Bay selects defensive tackle, University of Miami, Warren Sapp. New Orleans is now on the clock.
Well, certainly an eventful 24 hours, but at least as far as entering the National Football League, we now have a resolution to the question. Warren Sapp picked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the number 12 overall slot. Now he just has a chance to prove what he can do on the football field and prove what he can do off the football field. And he'll be a young man, as we heard him and his agent Drew Rosenhaus say, that certainly will be up to that challenge. The New Orleans Saints have about 3 minutes and 20 seconds left on the clock. The Saints have been, well, it's been like a turnstile down there. It's been like about 11 p.m. on Bourbon Street, what the Saints have done in the offseason. They have signed a backup quarterback, Tim Rosenbaum, to let the Wade Wilson go. You see the linebacker move. They get Rufus Porter, fine player from the Seattle Seahawks. They lose a linebacker of the caliber of Darian Connor to the Carolina Panthers, along with the last of the Mohegans, Sam Mills, that great linebacking quartet. He went to Carolina as well. They pick up Eric Allen, just about as good a cover corner as there is, and they lose Vinnie Clark. And they change punters. Barnhart goes to Carolina, and Klaus Winsmeyer becomes the new punter from the 49ers on the New Orleans Saints. So, Joe, program sales will be up in New Orleans, so they really have to evaluate almost a whole new team here.
Well, I think so, Chris. I think, obviously, the defensive line is an area of concern, and even linebacker, because, see, Monty Kiffin has taken over as the defensive coordinator. His background is out of Minnesota, where you go 4 down instead of the way it's been in New Orleans for so long, a 3 down. But you look at their rankings, again, 27th in points, 26th in passing yards, total yards 25th, first downs a game 28th, and touchdown passes against 28 total, tied for 27th. Joel Smenge's gone, Sam Mills is gone. I would look for them to conceivably go for a Mark Fields here, who's a very complete linebacker, or maybe a Hugh Douglas, who was a linebacker who hasn't played in the 3-4, won't need to. Good rushman, opportunity for somebody to come in and play right away. I think they're going to go with 3 linebackers. So to me, a linebacker choice here, boom, would make a lot of sense for New Orleans.
And Turnbull would go down up front of one of the 4. Linebackers, not many in this draft. We haven't come close to one being picked thus far, Mel.
No, we won't. And I'll tell you, when you look at the New Orleans Saints, they got a great linebacker pick in the 3rd round last year. Winford Tubbs, who they really like. He can play inside. He can play outside. Damian Covington's undersized. He's under 6 feet tall. That could push him into the 2nd round. Styles' workouts weren't very good. That's moved him down. Mark Fields had an extraordinary year in terms of production, then was a workout warrior, running 4.55, 4.60 at about 242 pounds. That's moved him to the top of that class in terms of being a guy that can play either in the middle or, Joe, play outside linebacker.
Definitely, I mean, you know, and when you're looking at a team that is doing a new offense or defensive scheme, a new coordinator, you definitely want to get somebody who can come in and fit and play for it. I think Fields would be the guy.
Well, the New Orleans said the pick is coming up. Will it be Mark Fields forever in New Orleans, or, well, we shall see. The commissioner has the card.
It won't be Warren Sapp.
This just
I figured that out.
Yeah.
Or J.J. Stokes.
Kidneys. Let's go up to the podium.
With the 13th choice in the first round, the New Orleans Saints select linebacker from Washington State, Mark Fields.
Let's go, fellas.
The Buffalo Bills are next on the clock.
All right, guys, you got him.
When you look at Fields and talk about the frame, 240-plus pounds, and watch the quickness and the explosion of this kid. He was all over the field for Washington State. That's a guard. He just drilled at the line of scrimmage and moved in for the sack. There he is. Look at the form tackling, hit, lift, and drive. That's why I really believe he can play any position. And along with Winford Tubbs, who's very versatile, look at his speed here. Picked up the fumble. That was the key play that allowed them to beat Illinois. Then you look at him coming here, inside, between the center and guard hole, for the sack. That's the kind of speed and the size combination that moved him to the top, Chris. And when you talk about a guy who can play middle or on the outside, can cover, play in space, get into the backfield, he can really do it all. And the workout, that individual workout, is what allowed him to move into the mid-first round.
Well, I mean, some people might feel a little high, but they had the great linebackers with Swilling and Ricky Jackson on the outside and Vaughn, Johnson, and Mills on the inside. They're all gone. Is this the start of a new era of linebackers at the Saints? They need only 3 of them. Mark Fields may be one. We'll be back.
The Italians have always been known for incredible cuisine, distinctive architecture, and, until recently, the very finest in exotic sports cars. Introducing the new NSX-T from Acura. Some things are worth the price.
Rule number 45, board checking. Rule number 25, to play the game, use a puck. The Blues and the Stars will shine Tuesday. The NHL rules on ESPN2.
We're back at the 60th annual NFL selection meeting, the NFL draft, and picking for the highest they have selected since 1987. The Buffalo Bills are picking in the 14th spot. Now, they're usually picking in the number 27 spot because the 4 years before this, they have represented the AFC in the Super Bowl, albeit that last game did not go the way they and the fans in Buffalo wanted. They did a pretty good job of drafting that low. They've gone defensive back pretty much all 4 of the 5 last years. The Buffalo Bills may be the last of an era. Yes, they lost Darryl Talley. Yes, they lost the Reichen and Metzelars. But guys like Jim Kelly and Kent Hull, of course, they pick up Jeff Coat with a move, and some of their other players like Kenny Davis and Steve Tisker at Tasker and Andre Reed and Bruce Smith, who's now 31, and Thurman Thomas, who's not yet hit the 30, but they have pretty much, in this day and age of free agency, kept the nucleus together. What they're trying to do as we go up to Chris Fowler is make one last run. They figure they have 1 or maybe 2 at the max years left to make a run with this team. They've had big changes in the offensive line. Reuben Brown is sitting there. That might be a selection that will work for the Buffalo Bills. Let's go to Chris Fowler. What do you hear up north?
Well, Reuben Brown would be a consideration, Chris. This, many people up here consider the most important draft for the Buffalo Bills in a long time. It's the highest they have drafted since '88 when they took Thurman Thomas at 14. And incidentally, he was the last rookie to be a significant starter, so the Bills have had the luxury of not having to draft guys who come in and start right away. Joining us now, the president and the original owner of the team, Ralph Wilson. Do you see this weekend as a crossroads for this franchise? 13 guys gone from last year and the opportunity to make maybe 1 more 2 moves and get back to the Super Bowl?
Well, we certainly are going to make an effort. Fortunately, we haven't been drafting this low in prior years, but with the 14th pick, we know we can get a good player here.
I know Bruce Smith told me he was lobbying for a young pass rusher to groom. Jim Kelly's been screaming for a receiver, but the top players of those positions are gone. My cab driver over here wanted an offensive lineman. Does the cab driver win out at this point?
Well, you know, those cab drivers sometimes can be pretty correct, you know. Whatever the cab driver said, you know, the Bills might go for.
What is the importance of getting a quarterback of the future? Jim Kelly, I know his knee is rehabbing well, and he should be 100% for the season. But what is the importance, perhaps in round 2 or round 3, of getting a quarterback of the future?
Well, I don't know what the position, how they'll fall in the 2nd and 3rd round. Nobody knows. But sure, we would like to get somebody to come in and behind Jim. But we think, I personally think that Jim has another maybe 3 or 4 years left in his career.
It's a moot point now, but as an owner, would you have been concerned about taking Warren Sapp with this 14th pick, given the conflicting reports, some of which were denied by his agent and his former head coach?
Well, he's a great player, Warren Sapp, and he's going to make a great contribution. I think that these reports from the media and from the league, I think he probably will make a big impact on him, and he will certainly go the straight and narrow from now on.
All right, thank you for joining us. I know you want to get back down to the war room. You're involved in talking to the scouts. Boomer, maybe the cab driver will win out. Reuben Brown, whom the Bills see as perhaps moving to a guard, may be the guy.
All right, Mr. Wilson and Chris, thank you very much. One thing you must know about the folks in Buffalo, they all follow the Buffalo Bills. I think the cabbie has the meter running. I think Reuben Brown makes a lot of sense. If you look at offensive line, and we have not had, except for Baselli, they're all there. This is the position that certainly fell to the Bills, and this is a position, they got Fien at left tackle, they got Hull at the center, where they can use some help. And Reuben Brown, tackle or guard, where would you project him?
Really, either place. I think with Buffalo, you would think about maybe guard initially, but their master plan is to move Glenn Parker to guard and maybe John Fina inside either guard or center down the road. And with Reuben Brown, he played tackle at Pitt, did a great job. Then at the Senior Bowl, Chris, he played guard and really neutralized some of the better defensive linemen in college football coming into the NFL. He's 6'3", 305. He's got a great base and long arms. So if you're going to be shorter as an offensive tackle, you better have the long arms, and Reuben Brown has it.
Well, they got young guards. Ostrovsky came in. They had to use a lot of their depth that they really hadn't planned on use. Depth is fine until you have to use it, as I've heard a couple of coaches say. But with the Bills with 7.5 minutes left to go, it would make sense. Of course, I'm just taking a stab at it. We'll be back right after this.
From across the seas, Beck's delivers the grand tradition and taste of the German art of brewing. Beck's, the #1 imported German beer.
You're beautiful. You're everything I ever wanted.
If you love your car, what you put on it should be more than just a wax. New Zymol Natural Liquid Auto Polish protects your finish with beeswax and shines with rare Brazilian carnauba. Safe, naturally derived ingredients, so pure, powerful, perfect.
Oh, so beautiful.
New Zymol Natural Liquid Auto Polish.
A brilliant idea never starts out brilliant. It starts out ridiculed. Because it's different and people haven't seen anything like it. Be unreasonable. Insist that it can be done. Show them how. This is the software that helps you show them.
Kellogg's Raisin Bran tastes so good, people forget it's good for them. So while you're eating, I'll read about the nutrition, and then you can give me your thoughts, okay?
Okay.
Here we go. Wheat bran, vitamin D,
this tastes
fiber,
good.
iron.
Really good.
Okay, listen up here. Listen
I
up
really
here.
love this stuff.
Fiber,
Raisins and the bran together?
Keep listening.
Vitamin
D. Nobody's listening.
There are 2 reasons to eat Kellogg's Raisin Bran. The taste.
I think I hear a raisin. Does it say anything about nutrition?
My folks are here. These Super 8 motel rooms are roomy.
At these prices, we'll never leave.
Super 8 Motels, 1-800-800-8000. So affordable, so comfortable.
And welcome back to New York, where the Buffalo Bills have 5.5 minutes to make their selection. The Bills have been very busy, and we said that they're trying to make one last run at getting back in the Super Bowl. Guys that they have acquired, pass rushers. Jim Jeffcoat can still rush the passer on the outside. Ted Washington to play defensive tackle, former Niner and Denver Bronco. But the big one is Bryce Pop. For the Bills, entertaining thoughts under new defensive coordinator Wade Phillips of going with a 4-3. It would be Bennett to the weak side linebacker, Pop to the strong side linebacker. And you see some of the losses we mentioned, Reich and Metzelaars, and of course Darryl Talley. You just can't replace him in the locker room. But who do you replace on the offensive line? Let's go to the podium and grab the commissioner. shouldn't be hard to pronounce.
With the 14th pick in the first round, the Buffalo Bills select guard from the University of Pittsburgh, Reuben Brown. Indianapolis Colts are next on the clock.
Now that he's on the horn right now with the Buffalo Bills, I know you guys are shocked that
the cab driver got it right.
The cab driver got it before me.
Not only did you get it right, but the cab driver got it right.
Well, he drove me to the airport recently.
Okay.
Mike Gottfried is up at our studios in Connecticut, and Coach, you're responsible for bringing Reuben Brown to Pittsburgh initially, so you've had your eye on him for a long time.
Well, Chris, what a lot of college coaches like to do is recruit defensive linemen in high school, because if they don't make it on defense, you can always move them to offense. You can't go the other way most of the time. In Reuben Brown, we get a good player here for the Buffalo Bills. He has versatility at the guard and tackle position. Here you see him at a guard spot, pulling down the line, blocking the outside linebacker. He has excellent feet. Reuben Brown also can be a left tackle. Now, remember, most quarterbacks right-handed. You want to protect the blind side of the quarterback. He's a very good pass blocker. And what also you like in Reuben Brown is he delivers the first blow. He comes off the ball. You see him right here at the left side. Just comes off the ball, is able to get the block and control the line of scrimmage. I think it's a very good pick by Buffalo, Chris, but I'll tell you also, I like Ellis Johnson. I think Ellis Johnson, with the premium on defensive linemen, Ellis Johnson has to go very, very quickly. Has to go to Chris Fowler at Buffalo.
Well, Mike, offensive line, certainly one of the areas the Bills wanted to address. Marv Levy joins me. You got the guy you wanted there.
Well, he certainly was a player we had rated highest on the board at this stage, Chris, and we're very happy. We had Reuben rated high all along. It is an area where we have needs, so we're very pleased with our selection.
You and your general manager, John Butler, have said all along, the guy you get in this slot has to be a difference maker. It's not the old George Allen philosophy you use where you draft a rookie and set him on the bench. Can Brown come in and be a difference maker right away?
Well, you don't really find that out until you go to training camp, of course, but young players are going to have to play much sooner. We're drafting higher than we've drafted in several years, so the opportunity to do so is there. And we're certainly bringing him in with the thought in mind that we're not going to sit him down and groom him for several years. If he's ready to go, we're going to get him in there.
Brown started his career at Pittsburgh as a defensive tackle, moved to offensive tackle there. Do you see him as a guard?
Well, right now, it's important, I think, that you take a young player and put him in one place only. Reuben Brown, we think, is capable of playing any of the line positions. But the likelihood is, we'll talk it further over with our offensive staff, that we'd put him in at guard for this year and not encumber his thinking with a lot of other positions.
We talked yesterday. You said you'd very much like to get maybe a quarterback of the future if that's possible. You know, you want Jim Kelly to play a couple more years. Is that where the emphasis now shifts for the second-round pick at 45?
Well, I wouldn't say that that's the case. Everybody would like to get their quarterback of the future, and we have a lot of needs along the way. Quarterback is one of them. I'm going to have to talk to that cab driver first, by the way, to see who we should pick in the second round.
Well, the Bills have helped their offensive line, which gave up 41 sacks last year, certainly addressing a need. Boomer?
All right, Coach, and Chris, one little note. Thurman Thomas is getting married today in Buffalo. He just got an additional wedding present. Reuben Brown will be one of the men who will block for him in the years to come. Congratulations, Thurman. Congratulations to Reuben Brown. And we'll be back with the Colts and then the Jets. Stay with us.
Applebee's Neighborhood Grill and Bar presents...
We're close to 3 hours in from what's been an eventful, certainly at the top, and then a couple of intriguing moves today, which you're watching the crawl underneath my chin probably all day long. Next on the clock are the two teams that win spelling bees. C-O-L-T-S, Colts, 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 and J-E-T-S, Jets, Jets, Jets. Let's go down to a team that's a little harder to spell, not that much, the Panthers. And Chris Mortensen, the Indianapolis Colts have built what looks like a nice defense, but they've had some injuries to Empman and Trev Alberts. What's everyone's status on that team right now?
Well, I think there's a lot going on with Indianapolis right now, Chris. For one, let's just go ahead and say it. The trade between the Buccaneers and the Colts is final. The Indianapolis Colts acquire Craig Erickson, quarterback from the Buccaneers, for next year's #1 pick. In return, the Colts are about to enter negotiations with Craig Erickson. His agent, Ralph Sindrich, will go there Tuesday. They've already agreed on the parameters of a $2 million plus deal. Bob Irsay, the Colts owner, wants to get personally involved with this. I have no doubt that Indianapolis is getting a lot of phone calls right now about this pick. For instance, Tyrone Wheatley, Rashawn Salam, two premier running backs still on the board. The Raiders have to be looking at this pick. The Chicago Bears, with some extra picks acquired in some trades with Miami, also have to be talking about this pick. So, yes, it makes sense that Indianapolis goes with the defensive player, but I guarantee you the phone is ringing off the hook.
Ardmore, thank you. So Erickson now, the quarterback, Mel, that the Colts, I guess, have been looking for. We'll hold off on that just a moment.
Briefly.
What about the defense? I mean, Empman was a great player, but who knows his status now? Trev Albert, ESPN 2's Trev Alberts. He came in and played late. Coriat's a heck of a player. They got Marshall Falk. This is a team that is not that far from being a pretty good football team.
No, they aren't, Chris, and I think they made the great step getting Erickson. We'll get to that later. But defensive line, take a look at it. You got Bernard Whittington, who's basically a journeyman type. McCoy, who played at Florida, did a nice job. Saragusa was a former free agent, undrafted free agent out of Pitt. Tony Bennett, who's kind of a combination guy, 9 sacks coming off that corner. Then you have Steve Empman coming back from the injury, and an aging Freddie Joe Nunn, who's near the end of the trail. They really need some defensive help at that position. Ellis Johnson, Luther Ellis, both there. You also have some pretty good DBs, Tyrone Poole and Bobby Taylor on the board as well.
Yeah, we have not gone DB at all. We've had only one linebacker gone, and we've only had the one running back gone. So, and only 2 offensive linemen. So those positions are available. Let's see what the Colts have done. Let's go up to the podium at Commissioner Paul Tagliabue.
With the 15th pick in the first round, the Indianapolis Colts select defensive tackle from Florida, Ellis Johnson. The next selection will be made by the New York Jets with a choice acquired from Arizona. The Jets are now on the clock.
Well, the Colts continue to stockpile that defense in addition to the Marshall Falk pick. Ellis Johnson, a solid. You wonder with Ellis Johnson at Carter in Florida last year, how anybody moved the ball at all on the ground. Let's go up to the coach and talk about Ellis Johnson. And he's a player that looks to be just solid across the board, right, Coach?
Chris, I really agree. You know, he can be a nose guard in the 30 defense, or he can be a defensive tackle in the 4-3, and he really finishes off. A lot of teams really like him. Let's take a look at Ellis Johnson. Explosion off the ball. Same thing we said about Warren Sapp and the defensive lineman. First step, being able to get to Jay Barker of Alabama right off the bat. You want a defensive tackle to win a high percentage of one-on-one blocks. Here, Ellis Johnson just takes apart the guard at LSU, makes the tackle. Ellis Johnson also has a lot of agility to go down the line of scrimmage and make plays. Here, he'll go down the line of scrimmage, make the tackle on the Alabama tailback. Ellis Johnson, I think, is a great pick for Indianapolis. I really think that they have really helped themselves in their defense.
All right, Mike, we're sorry we're leaving you all alone up there. We want you down here with us. Ellis Johnson, Mel, now with the Colts. Pretty good value for a pick at 15, Ellis Johnson, don't you think?
I think it's a real good pick. I think, you know, Bill Tobin stuck to his productive major college theory and took Ellis Johnson, who's going to fit in very well. The interesting thing is, with Ellis Johnson, when you look at the productivity, 26 quarterback pressures, and that's with Kevin Carter on the other side. That's a dominant tandem. He was, as Chris has said, very steady on or around the line of scrimmage. And another thing, you know, Bill Tobin had said, you know, before the Combine that he downgrades heavily players that don't work out at the Combine, trying to send a message to these kids to work out. Then he drafts the kid Ellis Johnson, who lifted at the Combine, did 25 reps, but did not run and did not jump vertically. So, you know, you say one thing, you do another. That's not the message you want to send to kids. So you're better off not saying anything.
You know, the only other thing, Boom, one thing that I like about Johnson here is the fact that in the 3 years he was at Florida, he only missed 2 games. And that's been a big problem, I think, for the Indianapolis Colts up front. They just haven't been able to keep people healthy. They look like they've got a kid now who not only can play for him and play well, but also line up every Sunday. That's a big key for the Colts up front.
This is starting to be a very interesting team under Teddy Marchibroda. Jets, 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 with their second first-round pick. O-line, DB, or another surprise. We'll be back.
Even though it's shorter on the outside, we designed the new Cavalier to be the roomiest car in its class on the inside. In fact, we gave it so much more room that it moved up to a larger EPA class. Well, fortunately, they can't make us give it a big price. After all, the new Cavalier is a genuine Chevrolet.
When traffic congestion changes, the threats to your car's engine change. That's why Quaker State has engineered intelligent oil. Oil that senses the changing threats in your engine and adapts its own molecular structure for continuous protection. So whenever the driving conditions change, so does Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life.
Now you can change to the intelligent oil and save $3.60 on a case of Quaker State. See store display for details.
What guy hasn't experienced it? You couldn't be happier. You're absolutely devoted. And boom, something goes wrong. So you start saying, that's it, no more, because I'll never feel the same way again. But you know what? Time passes and you feel different, and boom, you're back together. Come on, make up. Opening day, don't miss it, because you'll only hate yourself if you do. Maybe not today, maybe not next week, but someday you'll be in the car and you go, boom, what the hell happened there?
Now, welcome back to New York. Chris Berman, Joe Theismann, Mel Kiper, and a cast of thousands around the country. And we hope you're enjoying watching wherever you are. The Jets fans we were shocked with Kyle Brady when they got that pick earlier in the first round.
Here it comes.
Here comes the second pick in the first round. E-tackle. Defensive back. A surprise. Hugh Douglas, which would be a pass rusher to replace the Loggeman spot. We shall see.
Yeah, but you know, Donald Evans may be moving outside. Maybe a Luther Ellis as a tackle to shore it up inside.
With the 16th choice in the first round, the New York Jets select defensive end from Central State of Ohio, Hugh Douglas.
Well, let me tell you, they don't know who he is.
Next choice to be made by the New York Giants.
They don't know who he is. But Mel, Brady and Douglas, not where you thought they'd go, but two really intriguing players in this draft.
Well, there's really not a lot of difference between Kyle Brady and Mike Mamola, who went a lot earlier. This was the Hula Bowl game that allowed him to push his way into the first round. We see him here. He's playing up, but he's at the line of scrimmage. Plays through the block, great speed, runs at 4.58. And what the question is going to be is where are you going to use him? Can he play in reverse? See him upfield again, getting into the backfield. That's what he did. He was a speed guy who played down and up on the line of scrimmage at Central State. See him there, number 53. A low level of competition. He could fight through a block very easily. In the NFL, he's going to have to make some adjustments. But the thing is, Chris, with a guy like Hugh Douglas, just like it is with Mike Mamola, you're going to have to use him as a pass rusher and accentuate his ability to get upfield. And certainly when you look at computer numbers of Hugh Douglas, 255 pounds, 4.58 speed, big kid, 4.73 at the combine, which is a slow track. That's a great 40 time. Tremendous strength, which gives him the ability to play stronger and play bigger than his size indicates. 32 vertical is also pretty good as well. So a guy that I think at the Hula Bowl, then during workouts, pushed his way up. He had 16 sacks this year for Central State. Same school that produced Vince Buck and also Eric Williams.
You know, I think Mel, you bring up the most critical point in the whole situation is where do you play him? Talked about the fact that they may want to move Donald Evans out to end. Well, Hugh Douglas basically plays outside. I don't think he'll play inside because he stood up so much. But it looks like the Jets have got a lot of versatility now in the defensive line, trying to replace Jeff Loggeman. So you get a guy that you can use maybe in different positions, or is he going to be a tweener that you just can't quite find a home for him?
But one thing that they've done, Joe, as we go to Coach Gottfried in a moment, the speed, they did not really have that on the defensive line. Loggeman, who has gone to Jacksonville, and Marvin Washington did not have a good year last year. Washington's a good player, but he didn't have a great year. Not a lot of speed up front. The Jets now have that at that position when they rush the passer, along with their linebackers, Lewis and Houston, who are good. Let's go up to Coach Gottfried. Central State in Ohio. Any question about the level of competition, or is he ready, Hugh Douglas, to play in the NFL?
The Marauders of Central State. Hugh Douglas, I spent a week with him at the Hula Bowl, and you talk about a guy that came to play. He did. He wanted to prove a point. He played against Trezell Jenkins, played very well. The only question I have, he's not a linebacker. He's never dropped into coverage. He has to be a defensive end. He has to be able to take on the run. If he can't take on the run, he's a one-down player. Let's go to Chris Fowler in Buffalo.
Coach, I know you had him on your team at the Hula Bowl there. He did play very well against Trezell Jenkins in Michigan. In fact, they got in a scuffle. Jenkins was so frustrated he couldn't block him. At 24 years old, Douglas is a different kind of a player than a lot of guys taken today. He has a wife. He has a kid. He has a father who worked in a steel mine who was disabled. So Hugh Douglas has a lot of mouths to feed. He's going to approach this as seriously and as businesslike as anybody who's drafted. Central State of Ohio, a school that's produced some other guys in the NFL, Vince Buck and Eric Williams. Hugh Douglas will arrive intent on becoming an instant impact player. He's a mature, different kind of a guy than a lot of guys drafted today, Boomer.
Oh, Chris, you know, as a guy that went a few years ago in about this spot, could have been 16, I'll have to check it, and Huey Richardson to Pittsburgh. Same sort of player, kind of a gamble. Well, not a gamble, but could he play up? Could he play down? I mean, he didn't pan out for the Steelers. You hit or miss with this sort of pick, but this is the sort of player that if you hit, can be really unique. And so the Jets are taking that shot at the athlete. We go from the Jets to the Giants. Is this the start of a running back run? That sounds good, but that's the question.
For years, AT&T's television commercials convinced my mom, my sister, and me not to join MCI savings programs.
Then we heard about MCI's new friends and family, and we decided to try it. So we joined together.
Now, when we spend just $10 a month, we save 50% on all the calls we make to each other.
That's half of what we used to pay on AT&T's basic rate for the same call.
And now we realize that all the time AT&T was telling us not to join MCI, they were charging us America's highest long-distance rate.
On my side, yes it is. Time is on my side.
At 5:01, work time ends and Miller time begins. Because nothing finishes a day like a beer that always finishes smooth. Miller High Life. Your time, Miller time.
So how's it looking for the Blackhawks?
Well, it's a shorter season. We've had to put things together a little quicker. You know, we had to pick up pace a little bit. But I think the guys adapted pretty well. You know, they've gained half a step.
The Engine, a machine with 750 horsepower savagery and a mind of its own. It praises those that can dance with it. NASCAR on ESPN. The Haynes 500, tomorrow at 3. Strap in.
We are halfway through the first round. Remember, each of the expansion teams gets 2 picks in each of the rounds, except Carolina forfeits a couple of them for tampering a little bit with Dom Capers. But so there'll be 32 picks in this first round, and so we are halfway through. We have the Giants on the clock, but before we get done with the Jets, there are many folks who are watching this right now. Certainly those in the business know that one of the classiest men of all, as we do this draft every year, and classiest men in football, is Dick Steinberg, general manager of the New York Jets. All of us have been thinking about Dick, and since he's been diagnosed with stomach cancer in December, he got some great news yesterday, the best news that he has had in the 4, 5, 6 months since this has happened, and very positive news about some recession of it. And so from all of us and all you fans out there, I just want to let Dick Steinberg know that we're thinking about him. We send our love, and he's been working this week. It's like nothing's going on, and he got some great news this week as well. The Giants are next on the clock, and we have about 8 minutes to go. We have had trades galore here in the first round. Right at the top, the Bengals went up north, taking Carolina's first overall selection, moving down to the 5 spot and picking Kajana Carter. The 49ers went up to the 10 spot where Cleveland was and stole, really, J.J. Stokes, wide receiver, UCLA. Tampa Bay and Philadelphia made a switch. Philly moving up to 7. Taking Mike Mamula, Tampa Bay, going down to 12, still getting a defensive tackle, a great one in Warren Sapp. And, of course, last night, the Jets made the deal that sent Rob Moore to Arizona, so they end up with a pair of first-round picks, and that second first-round pick that they got from Arizona was the one they used just a couple of moments ago to pick Hugh Douglas, the defensive end, stand-up linebacker type from Central State, the Marauders in Ohio. The Giants are on the clock. 7 minutes to go. Word, Chris Mortensen, that earlier, maybe a week or so, that they had dangled the name Rodney Hampton out there whether that was true or not. He's not trade bait at this point. That being said, is it still possible running back where they go?
Definitely. Even though they have needs on defense and the offensive line, Chris, we are looking at Tyrone Wheatley and Rashaan Salaam on the board still, the preseason Heisman Trophy favorite and the guy who won the Heisman Trophy in Salaam. And for the Giants right now, Rodney Hampton only has 1 year left on his contract, has a lot of mileage on his legs, even though he's only 26 years old. And I think if they take a running back, they will then make Hampton available. But my understanding is that before the draft, they did not shop Hampton, but he could be available if they take one of those running back picks here, Chris.
All right, Morton, well, certainly running backs, except for Kajana Carter at the top. You mentioned those two, and James Stewart from Tennessee. There are some teams in the 21, 22, 23, Chicago, Green Bay, and New England, that would like running backs. So maybe the Raiders do it too. So this is an interesting slot for someone to move up and get your choice of every back except Kajana Carter. Now, Joe, Dave Meggett is now back with his old coach, Bill Parcells, with New England. The Giants bring in Herschel Walker, obviously a bigger guy, obviously a little older guy. Similar role, or Herschel play a lot more than Meggett ever did for
Well, I think that he'll probably play in a similar role. I think you can't expect Herschel to go out there and carry the ball a lot. You look at yards rushing, 528. He carries the ball a little bit more than Meggett. The receptions, which is really where I think he brings the value, and also even as a kick returner. Even Herschel's touchdown production is greater. I happen to think that Herschel Walker here probably gives you a little bit more of a football player than Dave Meggett because of Dave's size. Again, Herschel's a little bit older, but you certainly have to think that the Giants are examining Tyrone Wheatley, Rashaan Salaam, as Mort mentioned. Wheatley is a guy that people think he was nicked up a lot. He could be one of the greatest players to come out of this draft. He could also possibly be like, say, a Curtis Dickey maybe, who will dangle that carrot in front of you and then get nicked a little bit and sit on the sidelines. But I don't think they lose a lot picking up a Herschel Walker, but Herschel can't play forever. It seems like he has, but I don't think he can continue much longer.
His second tour of duty in the Meadowlands, having played with the Generals in the USFL. Mel, let's go to your running back board. Carter obviously won. Then there's some jumbling of these next three guys. You have Wheatley second.
Wheatley, I think, is the sixth best player in this entire draft, and we're sitting here at 17. Had he come out last year, may have been the fourth pick to New England, so by going back to Michigan, may have cost himself some money. Rashaan Salaam, we're talking about a guy who has that great straight-ahead speed, over 2,000 yards. He was one of the top 10 to 15 players in this draft. He's still there. James Stewart from Tennessee really catapulted into the first round, had a steady, productive career. And James Stewart from Miami figures more as a second-round pick in most clubs' minds. Napoleon Kaufman's kind of a wild card. Not a great natural receiver, but decent hands, great return man, and a very effective runner for his size. He could be interesting late first, early second. Curtis Martin, best vertical jump, 41 inches of any player in the draft. Good, productive player when he was healthy, but he was nicked some. Sherman Williams, a very underrated player, will be a great second or third round pick. Aaron Hayden broke his leg. Last play of the first half against Vanderbilt, final game of the season. He would have been a second or third, now maybe a fourth or fifth. And Derek Holmes, a big back, a sleeper type, a guy that would probably be a third or fourth rounder in most clubs' minds, Chris.
Well, this is the spot where we may see the running backs going again. That 21, 22, and 23, Chicago and Green Bay and New England, all eyeing backs. And you might put the fullback Zellers in this group, too. So in the next 9 or 10 picks, you could see 4 or 5 backs go. Let's head to Tampa Bay now. Is that where we're going? To Gary Danielson. And, Gary, why don't you try getting a suntan? What's going on?
Good to be back with you. You know, talking about the two running backs, I've seen both Salaam and Wheatley repeatedly in their college career. I don't think there's a downside to either guy personally, and I don't agree with Joe Theismann. I played with Curtis Dickey, and Ty Wheatley has far superior catching ability than a Curtis Dickey has. Had a few nicks at Michigan, but I see both of them as solid backs. Either way these teams go, I don't see a loss, except I think there's a little more upside potential with Ty Wheatley because of his speed. Let's go to Chris.
Gary, thank you. Talked to Rashaan Salaam this week. He's a very competitive guy. It burned him up to hear scouts talk about Kajana Carter and Tyrone Wheatley rated ahead of him. He wants the chance. He said he'd love to go head-to-head with Kajana Carter in a training camp and try to see who would win the job. Now, his first choice for a team would be the L.A. Raiders. He loves the image. It's close to his home in San Diego. He's now getting into that part of the draft when he believes he could go. The Raiders and then Green Bay, another team that needs backs, has shown a lot of interest. So we'll see whether Wheatley or Salaam is the next guy to go. Let's go to Hank Goldberg.
Chris, the Raiders had an interest in Rashaan Salaam, too, so much so that they thought they were going to have to trade up to get him. So they'll be watching the Giants pick with great interest because I think if the Giants take Salam, the Raiders then might go for Blake Brockemeyer or another offensive lineman. But you know the Raiders have needed running backs a long time. Back to Chris.
All right, Hank, the Giants have made their selection. The commissioner is eyeing the card. And we'll hear from the other part of the New York contingent here in the rafters at the Paramount Theater.
Running back for Michigan, Tyrone Wheatley. The Los Angeles Raiders are now on the clock.
Well, I think you can tell that Giant fans are pretty pleased with that selection. Tyrone Wheatley.
Please welcome New York Giants running back Tyrone Wheatley.
That didn't take long. Let's add this about Tyrone Wheatley. Whether or not he cost himself some money by not coming out last year, that'll be a debate. But what a novel concept. He stayed in school. He finished up. And he's still a first-round pick, and he's coming to New York. What a novel concept.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a great pick for the Giants. You're talking about a guy who really, talent-wise, should have been one of the first 5 or 6 players taken. And the only reason he slid down this far is the durability question. Look at the size, 230 pounds, but watch the speed, watch the ability to change direction and shift into a high gear. Nobody's going to catch this guy from behind. He runs legit 4.45, 4.50. Watch him catch the football. Now watch the speed and the power in the open field and the balance. Here he is on the sideline, taking it in for a touchdown. This is a play against Penn State that would have made a human highlight film. Watch the balance after he hurdles the tackler, kept his feet, and now he's off to the races before he's tackled and taken out of bounds down the road here. Interestingly enough, after that play, he went to the sidelines for a while. So that's the thing. Can he play 4 quarters? That's the reason why the Giants stole his services with the 17th pick, when in reality, Chris, based on talent, should have gone way, way higher in the draft.
Well, and Joe, even though he's nicked, here's a guy that in 92, 93, and in 94, oh, that's a great scene, isn't it?
A little bit different than Kyle Brady and the Jets.
Well, he's used to playing it with a raucous crowd, right? Over 100,000 up in Michigan, but so we'll add about 68,000 more. I was going to start to go it to you, Joe. 1,000 yards in 92, 1,000 yards in 93, 1,000 yards this last year. Productivity, yes, sir.
Yes, sir, he's got productivity, and what you really are impressed with when I look at statistics like this is his yards per attempt. 5.8 yards every time he touched the football. Touchdowns come, sometimes coaches like to feature backs down around the goal line. His wasn't the case. He averaged a lot. But this is what the Giants have done with their backs. Wolford, Michigan. Bunch, Michigan. Wheatley, Michigan. I think the Giants have found a home for running backs. But it also brings up the question, what do you do with Rodney Hampton in the last year of his contract? Somebody else needs one? Don't be surprised if maybe there aren't some trades going on right now where, say, the Raiders or Chicago or somebody could fill a need with a deal for a Rodney Hampton to make room for Tyrone Wheatley to come in and play.
It's the 6th straight year that Michigan has had at least one player in the top round. This year it's Tyrone Wheatley, and the Giant fans are ecstatic. Raiders on the clock next. The Raiders. We are back at the draft headquarters at the Paramount Theater in New York. We've had 17 of the 32 picks in the first round, a little over the halfway mark. Let's whip it around to our correspondents in the field to get their impressions on what's happened and what might. We'll tee it off with a team that's made 2 intriguing picks. Let's go to the Jets and Hank Goldberg. Hammer and Hank, what do you got?
Well, Chris, keeping it within the division, let's take a look at what the Dolphins' needs are, because they won this division last year. And I talked with Coach Shula yesterday, and I asked him, because a lot of people think they've helped themselves so much in the offseason they don't have drastic needs. But he said offensive line is a tremendous need because of Dellenbach going to New England, the uncertain status of Burt Widener, and Ron Heller's age. So he's got to be happy with all those offensive linemen sitting there. Let's go to Carolina.
I'm Chris Mortensen with the Carolina Panthers. When the Panthers traded the #1 pick to the Bengals, they picked up an extra pick at the top of the 2nd round. 3 picks in that area, and Dom Capers, the Carolina Panthers coach, says he expects to get 3 starters out of those picks. Now let's go to Philadelphia.
I'm Mark Malone. The Steelers still picking at number 27, and their phone has been ringing a little bit today with inquiries for running back Barry Foster, but nothing that interests them. They have a need to get some depth at offensive line, and who replaces tight end Eric Green? Well, Washington's Mark Bruner is still on the board. Now let's send it to Jacksonville.
I'm Andrea Kramer. The Chiefs have kept their eye on tackles Blake Brockermeyer and Reuben Brown and linebacker Lorenzo Styles. Brown is already gone. If the other two aren't there when they pick 19, it could be the first time under Marty Schottenheimer they trade down. Let's head to Dallas.
I'm Chris Myers. Cowboy reaction to the 49ers trading up for Stokes. Jerry Jones said, hey, they put their money in their passing game. We put it in our running game with Emmitt Smith. They were not surprised. As for the Dallas draft, they're 28th, and things are slow. Jerry, Larry, and Barry speak here. See, they're waiting. They'll probably trade down. They're talking running back or offensive lineman in Dallas. They hope to see the right pick. Let's go on to Tampa.
I'm Gary Danielson here in Tampa. Tampa's not done on defense. They got Warren Sapp, but in the second round, this is a team that's probably going to look for a linebacker. They ran a 4-2-5 nickel situation last year. New defensive coordinator Rusty Tillman says we've got to get some linebackers on this football team. Let's go to Minnesota.
All right, Gary, I'm Brad Nessler of the Vikings headquarters. They could use a quarterback of the future. Warren Moon's as old as I am. Chad May's been one of the guys they've had to come in here to work out. I think it's a stretch, though, to take him number 24. If Corey Stringer falls down, look for the Ohio State tackle to come to Minnesota. Let's go to Buffalo.
I'm Chris Fowler. Interesting to watch the underclassmen. Kevin Carter wanted to come out last year, got a bad rap. He felt, decided to stay in. It paid off. J.J. Stokes comes back for his senior year. It pays off. Mike Mamula, against the advice of some, comes out early. It pays off. Derek Alexander comes out after his junior year. It pays off. As for Tyrone Wheatley, we will never know. Many feel it's a misconception. He would have gone top 5. As it is, pays off because he gets his college degree. Let's go to San Francisco.
I'm Leslie Visser. The 49ers didn't get to be world champions by sitting still, and they're not done yet. They're working right now to package their remaining picks with a player to move up to the third or even the second round. You might remember last year, Bill Romanowski was traded on draft day to Philadelphia. And apparently no one is untouchable. The names floating around here are Tim McDonald and John Taylor. Back to New York.
All right, Leslie, and thanks to everybody. There's our whip around the league on what is coming up. Tyrone Wheatley is coming to New York. Running back of the Giants. He's with our Craig James right now. Pony?
Yeah, he's coming to New York. He's on the phone now, I think, with Coach Dan Reeves. And one thing about it is, well, yes, he did earn the degree, as Chris Fowler said. He could have come out last year and been a top 5 pick. And I guess we have to kind of obey the rules here. With Coach Reeves on the phone, you can understand that. But Tyrone, one thing about him is that what he did do is admirable. Coming back allowed him to do things he wanted to do personally. And what this is it, he says. This is it. They're doing a deal. Hey, Boomer, we'll go back to you, and whenever you guys have time, we'll come back here.
Well, it's his dime, right? As they say on the phone. The Raiders are next picking. 5.5 minutes to go for the silver and black. We'll be back. We're back at New York. A little shy of 3.5 hours in, the 60th NFL draft. And a long time ago, there were 249 picks in this one. This is the 18th pick in the first round. It's the Raiders, and the card is at the podium. Do they go Salam? Do they go speed?
With the 18th selection in the first round, the Los Angeles Raiders select running back from the University of Washington, Napoleon Kaufman.
Oh. Like we said, do they go speed?
Kansas City Chiefs are next on the clock.
This is an interesting pick. High if you rate it on the board, but a unique player. Is he not? Napoleon Kaufman, productivity for a man his size and the heart. Very interesting pick for the Raiders.
I'll tell you, you say he's small, but he's really not. I think you just look at his size, people write him off, but he's a strong kid, pound for pound, one of the stronger players on the club, great character kid, loves to play the game. He'll probably be a scout or a personnel director 15 years from now, Chris. The kid really analyzes everything, loves the personnel evaluation of football players. You can see him here, the ability to change direction, reverse his field, do anything he has to pick up yardage. Very resourceful runner. And, return man, which he gives you that bonus. We talked about how important that is. And you see, even as a return man, the ability to seek out open spaces and create his own opportunities. What he's got to work on in the National Football League is going to be catching the football, becoming more of a natural and a fluid receiver who can make the tough catch, not just the easy ones on the swing pass, Joe.
Well, Mel, I don't necessarily think that has to be the case, and the reason why I don't think it has to be the case is because you take a look at the football team that he's going to. The Raiders have just a ton of speed, and they like to put the ball outside to their people. Sure, Jim Fossil would like to incorporate the back a little bit, but he's got a young guy with tremendous speed. That's the thing when you think of the Raiders. You think of big linemen, and you think of people who can just flat run. They still have tremendous speed outside. They've got tight ends who can catch the football. Now they've got a little back who's fast, who gives that offense just a little bit more versatility to take a little bit more of the pressure off of Jeff Hostetler. I think it's a good pick. You could almost throw a blanket over most of the backs after Kajana Carter, so it works out fine.
Almost 1,400 yards last year at Washington, almost about 1,300 the year before, over 1,000 the year before that, always averaging 5.5, 6.5 yards a carry, and the second running back named Napoleon that we'll see in Raider uniform, Napoleon McCallum, and now Napoleon Kaufman. Let's go up to Mike Gottfried, and there's no question that this Napoleon, as was the other one, but this Napoleon is a football player in capital letters.
Well, Chris, he adds a lot to this Raider ball club. Special teams, first of all. He's a great special teams player, has been so for in the Pac-10 for Washington. But the thing I like best about him is what people knock a little bit about him is I think he can catch the ball in the backfield. And I think he'll be a Dave Meggett type of guy in that offense for him. So I really like this pick. Let's go to Chris Fowler in Buffalo.
Well, I agree with you, Mike. I really felt in the weeks before this draft, Napoleon Kaufman was a forgotten guy, underrated by many people, see him as a very good pro. However, I was on the phone with Rashaan Salam at his home in San Diego when the Raiders made the pick, and he was very disappointed, and a collective groan from those in the room. As I said before, the Raiders were the #1 choice of Salam. Now he has to sit and wait. Green Bay is another team that's shown a lot of interest, and there are some picks coming up in the next 5. A lot of teams needing running backs. Boomer?
Tim Brown, the Rocket, many others with the speed up there. First Raider running back taken in the first round since 1982. That was Marcus Allen. That certainly worked. Let's go to Craig James, who's with Ty Wheatley, but also you had a chance to see Kaufman play over his college career. Big heart.
He's a great running back. The speed that killed a lot of teams in the Pac-10. One thing about him, he can run. He is extremely strong. I agree with Coach Gottfried about his hands. I think he can catch the ball. They just never really pushed him into that. Napoleon Kaufman, I mean, you've got your thoughts on him, too.
Oh, yeah, Napoleon's a good runner. I've seen him run, in 2 of the Rose Bowls that we played in. And a lot of people say, is he big enough to take the beating? I think Napoleon's a good enough back to where he can make you miss. When he won't take the beating, and if needs be, he'll dish out a beat.
You had a great prediction. You said they were going to take him before the announcement. What all was going on back there?
Well, I mean, I kind of felt that, I was going to L.A., but I felt, as if they didn't pick me, they were going to pick him. No disrespect to Rashaan, but I just thought that they would take Napoleon because I feel as though that he's the type of guy that fit their program.
How about you in New York? You got a lot better reception here by the fans in New York than Kyle Brady did from Jets fans.
Well, I mean, the reception was just one of, I think the Jets wanted something else, and I guess they didn't get it, but I love the reception.
How about Rodney Hampton? Where's the room back there?
I don't know. You got 2 big backs already, and then I'm coming in, so, we'll just have to worry about that later, but if you're looking for a teacher, I got 2 of the best, so.
You talk about that ring. You said you may get it for all these other guys.
Well, New York has definitely been a team in the top rankings, and they've never drafted this high. I'm thinking, a couple of years, but I feel as though I get a ring a lot earlier than a lot of these guys will. So that's what I'm counting on. Bring it home.
Congratulations. You've got your degree and you're a first-round pick. And, hey, these running back deals here, there are a lot of good ones, as Joe said, that you could throw the blanket over, but there's some good ones out there still available.
Well, certainly, Craig, one of them is the Heisman Trophy winner, Rashaan Salam. He had the 2,000 yards last year. Napoleon Kaufman, though. You ask around the league, you get the same answer. Big-time ball player.
When you go by the University of Washington, there's Napoleon in the offices, always looking at tape. I mean, he's here. I've gotten to know him, and he's a football junkie. I mean, he loves studying tapes. He wants to be good. He's not the size of these other guys, but he's tremendously strong for his size, well-muscled, he's explosive, he's a breakaway. I think he's got a great future in the league.
Napoleon is exactly the kind of player that's more suited to the style of pro football we play today. He's got great speed. He was a 60-meter champion in high school. He's got a lot of ability to run fast. He can catch the ball well enough, and he can run inside. He's a multiple player that can play on 3 downs, and any team that can use him in certain situations, like as a nickel back or as a running back, as a change of pace player, I think he's very valuable. And in this style of game, in this style of football today, there's clearly a spot for him.
Welcome back to the NFL Draft here in New York. The Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock, followed by the Norris Division, Detroit, Chicago, and Green Bay. Let's quickly go down to Panthers headquarters in South Carolina and join Chris Mortensen. Word on the Chiefs?
Well, I think really people are looking at these next 2 picks. The Chiefs and the Lions shouldn't need a running back. The Chiefs, of course, took Greg Hill last year. The Lions do have Barry Sanders, although they're looking for a backup. So that leaves the Bears looking here. People thought maybe the Bears would jump up to take Wheatley or Salam. The Bears are going to stay pat at number 21. They'll take Salam if he's there, or they thought they had a trade possibly going with San Diego. But I think San Diego would have traded only if Hugh Douglas had been there. Douglas is gone. So I look for the Bears to go ahead and take their running back there, most likely Salam if he's available. And let's go to Hank Goldberg with the Jets.
Talking about trading, Kansas City, as Andrea said earlier, is looking to trade this pick. They're on the phones right now. And the reason that they would look to trade is that Marty Schottenheimer told me when I spoke to him on Friday, they're looking for speed on defense. If the people aren't there, and the 2 he mentioned to me are gone, then he would look to trade down because he considers about a dozen offensive linemen to have little separating them, and that is his next need. He feels he could get a good one later. But barring no trade, I'd certainly look offensive line or Styles. Let's go to Dallas.
All right, thank you very much, Hank. The Dallas Cowboys are discussing trading down from the 28th spot with the Chicago Bears, picking up a couple of second-round choices. Chris Mortensen had mentioned the Bears thinking running back. Right now, Dave Wanstead is not entirely sold on Rashaan Salam. The running back that he likes is Terrell Fletcher out of Wisconsin, a little smallish back, but one that he thinks can be as productive as Emmitt Smith, and it may be a little high to select him there, so they may trade down and still get the running back. But at the moment, at least the way Dave Wanstead was talking to Cowboy personnel, Terrell Fletcher is the running back he likes. Let's go back now to Chris Berman in New York.
All right, Chris, thank you. 5 minutes to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, Joe Montana, in case you've lived in a cave for the last week and a half, has retired from professional football, so it's Steve Bono at quarterback this coming year, backed up by Matt Werewolves of Blunden, and they also signed to the veteran and journeyman Rich Gannon to play quarterback as well. Then they finally get what Joe wanted, some offensive linemen, Mel. It's the offensive line coach, Art Shell, the former coach of the Raiders, now the offensive line coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. Do they now draft the younger lineman than Art Shell? Do they? Let's look at your board. Stringer's left, Brockermeyer. It's got to be in there, don't you think?
Now you're getting the value, Chris, with the offensive linemen. You see 2 gone already. Baselli, 2nd overall, and Reuben Brown to the Bills. But Corey Stringer is a great football player who wasn't a great workout. In fact, he didn't even finish his 40, but he's going to really be a value pick for somebody. Same thing with Brian DeMarco and Blake Brockermeyer from Texas. Brockermeyer in particular gives you the versatility to play tackle or guard, and Wiegert as well, guard or tackle. Barrett Brooks, a lot of people think should be a late first-rounder. Milner sliding a little bit maybe into the 2nd. Birdie's versatile, also a long snapper, and Steve Ingram from Maryland I like. Saw a lot of them in the ACC, comes out of that run and shoot. He could be a good late 2nd, early 3rd round pick.
Joe, that being said, and for value offensive line, the Chiefs defense, yes, they have Derek Thomas and they have Neil Smith, but they really fell backwards last year on defense, which is why they went from the title game to just the first round of the playoffs at 9-7. Fields might have been a guy, but he's gone.
Yeah, you know, the problem I think you run into when you look at the defensive line is who's left. You know, you're really not looking at people of that extreme of quality that could come in and contribute for you. Got to remember, the Kansas City Chiefs, on top of the problems that they've had on the offensive line, they've got 3 of them as free agents next year. Alt's got a bad back. They're not 100% convinced he's going to be okay. To me, the only place for the Kansas City Chiefs to go, if they want to get help and get help it now, is the offensive line.
Well, they have 3 minutes and 18 seconds left to decide what it is they're going to do. Then Detroit, who you would think, defensive back and a corner specifically, you would think. And then we keep saying Chicago, Green Bay, New England. Could all back. Somebody once said that, I think.
I heard that.
Oh, you're stealing my stuff. Well, it's football. It's allowed.
No. Never do it like you.
So this will be an interesting. You know what's intriguing about this draft? We get a lot of guys going with now the running backs coming. We've had the wide receivers and a couple quarterbacks. There've been a lot of, for the fans out there, you followed these players all along. In other words, you've watched them run the ball. The Ty Wheatley sitter for 2, 3, 4 years. Aren't a lot of linemen necessarily here that you don't know who they are. here comes the commissioner with the pick. We will know who the Chiefs' selection is in about 10 to 12 seconds. Although it looks like a trade color card, does it not?
Kansas City, which was on the board, has traded its pick to Jacksonville.
Ooh.
And the Jacksonville Jaguars, with the 19th choice in the first round, have selected a running back from Tennessee, James Stewart. In return for its first-round pick, Kansas City acquires the following picks from Jacksonville. Jacksonville's supplemental first-round pick in this draft, which is the 31st pick today. Jacksonville's bonus pick in the third round in this draft, which is the 97th selection. Jacksonville's bonus pick in the fourth round of this year's draft, which is the 134th selection. And Jacksonville's bonus pick in the fourth round of next year's draft. Those picks are all acquired by Kansas City. Detroit is now on the clock.
Well, so the Chiefs feel that they can get an offensive lineman, if that's where they want to go, or a DB in the 31 spot. Now where they're picking. And James Stewart, it's a wonderful, wonderful pick. I'm sorry, I had to try it. For the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, and he was one that Jacksonville wanted. They didn't necessarily want to hang there. They made the deal for the quarterback. You thought maybe they'd have taken a Rob Johnson as the second pick as a quarterback, but all of a sudden now they need some offensive players. They basically didn't have any. James Stewart fits exactly what they're looking for, so they didn't need the quarterback. You go to the running back position. I think it fits the need for him very well.
Let's go up to Coach Mike Gottfried. Coach, 1,000-yard back last year, James Stewart, 3 touchdowns in the Gator Bowl, and a guy with what scouts say has great inline vision, can make things happen between the tackles. And I'm sure that's what you've observed on film.
Well, Chris, the years I've watched James Stewart, of course, you remember he shared some time with Charlie Garner a couple years ago. So this is really the first year that he's really been in his own. Aaron Hayden, also another young back, played quite a bit. But this running back, James Stewart, has lower body strength. His hips and his legs, if you watch him break tackles here against the University of Georgia, just so strong lower body. And he has good breakaway speed and outstanding back, as you see him go to the touchdown here. James also has good cutting ability. Look at his head. Watch his eyes as he breaks through the line of scrimmage against Alabama, I believe, into the secondary. Constantly got his head on the swivel. Speed is something that also James Stewart possesses. Catches the ball in the backfield, but here again against Vanderbilt, you see him take the ball the distance. Chris, I think James Stewart, an outstanding choice.
Well, James Stewart is a guy, and I know Mel and Joe will concur as we spoke and get close to the draft, that a lot of people, and we've seen this, rated ahead of the Heisman Trophy winner Salam. But now, including with Kaufman gone, there's just one big-time back, at least as most teams look at it. You've got Chicago, Green Bay, and New England, who now are feeling pretty good. Now with James Stewart off the board, now they're sweating it out. So we shall see which backs go there if that's the way they want to go. Let's go to Craig James for a comment on Mr. Stewart.
Well, first of all, let me say this. I think James Stewart is an excellent runner, and a lot of that has to do with his lower body strength, the way he takes it to defensive players. I think that Keyshawn Carter and James Stewart will make the easiest transition into the NFL as a running back, much easier and smoother because of their running styles and aggressiveness than Tyrone Wheatley, Salam, or Napoleon Kaufman. So James Stewart will be an excellent selection and a great career in the National Football League. This guy's going to be a big-time player.
23-61.
All right, Craig, thank you. Let's go quickly down to Jacksonville, where Tom Coughlin has come out of the bunker and is with our Andrea Kramer. Andrea?
You know, Chris, I was here with Coach at the expansion draft. They had everything on the board and everything was turning their way. Now we're here at the college draft and the same thing is turning out. We talked about James Stewart yesterday. This is a guy you wanted to package and move up and get. Why?
Well, he's a good running back. We had him very high on our board. We're very, very confident that he's the kind of guy that will give us explosiveness. He's a down in and down out back. He's powerful. He's the kind of back that can be a service on a goal line. He got good hands, so he's somebody we thought we needed in our program, and we knew that once the back started to go, he would go fast, so we wanted to go up and get him.
Were you concerned that somebody else was trying to take him?
Yes, we knew that other people were very interested in this back, and As a matter of fact, when San Francisco moved up, we weren't sure that they might be interested in him. So along about now, when Wheatley went, we felt, wow, something's going to happen fast. Let's move.
What does he have that Rashaan Salam does not have?
Well, I think Rashad is a good football player. Rashaan is outstanding. It's just that we liked him better, and through our discussions with our scouts and our coaches, we gave him a little bit of an edge, and that's the guy we went for.
Like I said, you're right on course for everything you want. What do you look for with the 33rd pick?
Well, we have some needs to address now. You know, hopefully be an offensive line or middle backer or someone in a strong safety position. We have a few needs we're looking to take care of.
All right, Coach, thanks very much. Chris, let's head back to you in New York.
All right, Andrea and Coach Coughlin, thank you very large. So again, Jacksonville going up to take James Stewart in exchange. The Chiefs get Jacksonville's pick at the bottom of the first. They get a pick at the bottom of the third. They get a pick at the bottom of the fourth, and they get a fourth-round pick in next year's draft in '96. So we have seen a lot of movement here in the first round, and we're only at pick 20, which is Detroit. Remember, there's 32 in the first round, so the tension still mounts. Stay with us. At New York, as the first round continues to roll here, we are now in the run of playoff teams, which makes it a lot of interest, because now you think, boy, if they just add this guy, or if they just do this, then how much better will they be this coming year? Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, New England are your next four on the clock, and all these teams, Detroit, Chicago, Green Bay, making it from the Norris at 9 and 7. The Detroit Lions, they didn't rush the passer very well. They need some help covering wide receivers, i.e. in the defensive backfield. Let's go down to Tampa Bay. Gary Danielson, talk about your former club, the Lions. They have their pick of corners if this is what they want to do.
They really do, Chris. And I think they were a little bit hurt. I think they secretly wanted Hugh Douglas at this point in the draft. And I think, on the other hand, they're a little surprised that Luther Ellis and Corey Stringer are still available. I cover this team in preseason. I live in the area, so I watch them play a lot. They have many needs: offensive line, tight end, still a rusher, and a corner, as you say. I had a sneaking suspicion here that they're going to take Luther Ellis, and John Tierlich's in there running that pass rush for them, and I think they're surprised that Ellis is still on the board, and my pick for them is Luther Ellis. Remember, I gave you Johnny Morton last year.
Oh, God, how could we forget that? We all know that, Johnny Morton. And you know, Johnny Morton plays an increased role now with Mel Gray out of there. Morton going to be a return man as well. Detroit has about 7 minutes to go. When we return, we'll delve into the NFC Central. Stay with us. Side here at Madison Square Garden on 8th Ave between 7th and 8th and Toity Foist and Toity Toit here in New York. I believe so. They're the hardest working men in showbiz. They just have a toughest job to make us look good. The Detroit Lions are up next with 4 minutes and 20 seconds left. And Detroit, as they've been since the onset of free agency, they've been one of the year in, year out one of the busiest teams. They have signed a couple of backup quarterbacks to replace Dave Craig behind Scott Mitchell, Mikowski, and Hollis. Their big move, though, was getting Henry Thomas to help the pass rush. They made a punting change. They lose Derek Moore, the running back who goes to the 49ers. They lose Dave Craig, who's now going to start for Buddy in Arizona and throw to Rob Moore. They lose here are the names, Joe, you want to talk about. Swilling, Broderick Thomas, the Sandman, and Kelvin Pritchett, not to mention Mel Gray. So, again, program sales big in the Silverdome.
Well, when you pick up a Henry Thomas, that's great, but then all of a sudden you turn around, you lose Pritchard, Thomas, and Swilling. They account for 15 of the 27 sacks that you managed to put out, which isn't very many anyway. I think that you almost have to commit yourself to defensive line, which would mean Luther Ellis. But Mel and I agree on this one. I think the secondary has got to be the place they have to look for help. Don't you agree?
I think it's a huge need area, Joe. 67.6% completion percentage. A defense that obviously needs some speed back there. Ryan McNeil is more safety than a pure corner. Robert Massey had the 4 INTs. He led the way. They need somebody who can intercept 7, 8, 9 passes. Tyrone Poole would do two things. He would give them a great cornerback in the Darrell Green mold, plus he would give them a return man to make up for Mel Gray. Plus you got Corey Stringer, Bobby Taylor. There's more value on the board than Luther Ellis, who I think is a gamble, just like that 76% failure rate we talked about, Chris.
All right, well, let's see what the Lions have done. Their pick is at the podium. And here we go to the Central.
With the 25th in the first round, the Detroit Lions select defensive end from Utah, Luther Ellis.
There's Luther.
The Chicago
Big
Bears
defensive end from Utah. And so Detroit does go up front. So He's a guy that in a lot of the mock drafts and projections certainly going into the week was higher than the 20 slot, Mel.
Yeah, let's just hope he's not like a Sean Knight, a Jason Buck, a John Bosa, Chris. This is where I talked about that failure rate. It usually comes for defensive linemen mid to late first round. You watch him here. Big kid with a great motor, tremendous strength. But see how high he raised up the line of scrimmage? That will be negated at the pro level by NFL caliber defense offensive linemen. You see him there playing over the center guard, gets that quickness off the ball and can manhandle a redshirt freshman or sophomore. But you see how tall he plays, and that's really what bothers me, Joe. Well, you got to change that technique to be effective in the NFL.
You know, I absolutely agree with you, but one of the things that was mentioned about him, and as you see him play here, he said he just played the technique that he was taught in college. Now, the question is going to be, can he play down? Can he play a lot lower at the end position? He's going to have to, because with John Turlink as the defensive coordinator in Detroit, and we all know what the great job he did in Minnesota, guaranteed one thing: the 4 defensive linemen that he's going to have on the field, they have one and one purpose only, and that is to get to the quarterback. Don't worry about looking for a running back. If you happen to run into one on the way to the quarterback, tackle him. If he has the ball, that's fine, well, too. But get to the quarterback. I think that this guy's going to have to learn a new technique, but he certainly has a great teacher when it talks about coming off the ball and going after a quarterback.
Wow, Luther Ellis, Henry Thomas, interior line now for the Detroit Lions. Ellis goes to the Lions. The Chicago Bears are next on the clock. Here's what Lex Luthor has done. He's been Superman. A lot of trades in the first round, a lot of surprise. Now it's Chicago, followed by Green Bay. Let's quickly head up, shuffle off to Buffalo and rejoin Chris Fowler. And maybe some insight on either Luther Ellis or what the Bears are going to do. Chris?
Yeah, Boomer, just got off the phone with Rashaan Salam in San Diego. It's a good thing they have call waiting because he was on the phone with Dave Wanstead, head coach of the Bears, and it looks like Salam is headed to Chicago. Perhaps he did not want to see some running backs go in front of him, but he's certainly happy to be taken. It's been kind of anxious for him watching running backs go ahead of him, but it looks like the Bears on the phone with Salam. That seems to indicate one thing, Boomer.
Well, it means that, A, they're paying for the call. B, the Bears need a running back. There's no question about it. And the team behind them, the Packers and the team behind them, New England, they need a running back. So who knows if there could be a trade, especially know that they're on the clock with Salam, and they do have 10 minutes to go with the pick. Running back yards last year, Lewis Tillman had a real nice season, and Raymond Harris, the youngster, came on. But they could definitely need an upgrade in that spot. Dave Wanstead knows it. It's a very safe, close to the vest offense. He needs productivity. Salam with 2,000 yards last year would certainly indicate. The question on Salam, how many of those yards came on the pitch outside the tackles? Some teams that scared him off a tad, others it does not. Where do you put him?
Well, with Chicago, Chris, he wouldn't be pressured to be the instant impact guy because you had Tillman, who had a nice year, and you got Raymond Harris, who's a pretty good fullback, young fullback out of Ohio State. What he will be able to do is catch the football, be spotted, and learn to run a little bit better in terms of getting lower. He's upright, has to do a better job reading his blocking lanes. He'll have some time, Joe, to become acclimated to the pro game. He's not going to turn 21 years of age till this season coming up. The 95 season is well underway, and he won't be forced to be the savior in Chicago.
See, I think you bring up a real good point. He's a very young man. You're talking about somebody who's a very young football player who probably, from a body development standpoint, hasn't really reached near its potential. So not only does he learn to run a little bit of a different style, he's not asked to go in and get pounded on, and he's also going to grow a little bit. So what you're getting is you're getting, possibly, if he goes, again, we say if he goes, you're getting a football player who can grow into the role while other people assume it for you.
Well, he's got good hands. He can catch the ball, certainly out of the backfield. 2,000 yards. There have not been many that have run for 2,000 yards in a single season in college. Rashaan Salam, Barry Sanders, Mike Rozier, Marcus Allen. They all were Heisman Trophy winners, and certainly in the case of Sanders and Allen, big, big stars in the National Football League. Let's go to Craig James for some thoughts on the Heisman Trophy winner, Salam. Craig?
Well, one thing that Rashaan has always done throughout the fall is I asked him about his most memorable games, and he talked about Wisconsin when he had to run hard in the inside. He knows that he has to get better between the tackles, and he showed a lot of grit against a good Wisconsin defense inside. So he's aware of that. Number two, I've talked to some people around the league, and Dave Wanstead has sent word out. He is not really sold on this guy, on Salam. It may be one of those cases where he takes the best of the rest. Salam will be a good running back in the National Football League, and if it's Chicago, I may be surprised with the pick.
They'll probably use Craig the entire time. They have about 8 minutes to go on the board. Who will be calling? So maybe this is a spot, like I said, for someone to move up or at least investigate moving up. You know, again, we said it all year on NFL Game Day and NFL Primetime. You look at the job turned in by Dave Wannstedt and his staff out at Chicago, a team with no Pro Bowlers that made the playoffs and then won their opening round game against the Minnesota Vikings before they led San Francisco 3-0. They had that 3-0 lead on the 49ers. But this was a team that, you know, if they do that with no Pro Bowl players, they start to get a little better talent. Who knows what kind of limits
Well,
the Bears
is this a situation, Chris, I guess you throw out the question, in this case, you know Pittsburgh's trying to deal Barry Foster. Maybe there's a deal there between Chicago and Pittsburgh that Foster goes and they wind up moving down and still may be able to help themselves.
Well, they already have Tim Worley, so they could start stockpiling all the Steeler backs.
Right.
Maybe Franco Harris will come back. Let's go up to the commissioner and see what the Bears have done.
With the 21st pick in the first round, the Chicago Bears select a running back from Colorado, Rashaan Salam. The next selection is by Green Bay, which is now on the clock.
Well, Rashaan Salam now goes to the Windy City, and what they have done, the Bears, is just driven a little stake through the heart of their divisional rival. Immediately to the north, the Green Bay Packers, who, if Salam was sitting there, would have definitely tabbed him to go into the backfield along with Edgar Bennett. Salam is now gone. The Packers now will probably have to go another direction. Let's go up to the coach, Mike Gottfried. Hey, 2,000 yards. Doesn't need much apologies, does he?
No, he really doesn't, Chris. You know, the offense with Bill McCartney was built on two tight ends, getting Rashaan Salam the football, and then letting him find the hole. Let's take a look at Rashaan Salam. Second gear acceleration as he gets through the line of scrimmage here. You see the two tight ends, a lot of zone blocking by Colorado. Gets Rashaan Salam into the secondary, Iowa State. He's home free for the touchdown. Pretty good speed. He's a power runner. He's a guy that can carry the ball 25-plus times. Here you're going to watch some of his power here in the ball game, I believe, against Oklahoma. Good blocking again, runs upfield, takes the hit. Pretty solid running back. Cutting ability you want in the tailback again. With the two tight end offense, he did a lot of cutting, trying to find the hole, the zone principles here against Iowa State again. For big yardage, I think Rashaan Salam's a real good pick, Chris.
All right, Coach, thank you. As we return with the Packers now making a thought process on perhaps a corner, and he's going to be a tall corner. Heisman Trophy winners their first year in the NFL. Barry Sanders close to 1,500 yards. Marcus Allen had 11 touchdowns. George Rogers, I don't know if that number is right. We'll be back.
It's a break.
Well, we're back at the draft. The Green Bay Packers with the 22nd pick in the first round. They are on the clock right now. With Rashaan Salam gone, I expect them to look at corner, and with their experiences with Terrell Buckley, a short corner that was beat on, a lot of tall receivers in this division, Herman Moore, Alvin Harper, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be a tall corner. We know that much. Or an offensive lineman where you still got good value. Chris Mortensen, your thoughts on the Packers?
Well, I think the Packers have just traded this pick to the Carolina Panthers. That's the information I have coming out of Green Bay. And I can only speculate at this point that Carolina has seen one of these offensive linemen up there, whether it be Corey Stringer or Blake Brockermeyer or Brian DeMarco. So Carolina trading into this spot, presumably to get one of those starters that Dom Capers has been talking about here, Chris.
Well, Mort, they certainly have 32, 34, and 36 overall picks. 3 picks at the top now of the second round, which, by the way, I think you can play on a roulette board. 32, 34, 36. Might get a good spin out of it. But they have some things which they can move with right now. The Packers, of course, would have taken Salam. Doesn't surprise me that they would move down now. Well, it might be a little farther than I originally thought. The Green Bay, their running backs are not there who they want. Green Bay is a team that had a nice thing going, and then due to no fault of their own, Sterling Sharp, the most valuable player on the team, injured and certainly is gone and may never play in the NFL again. Surely he's not going to play next year. And Bryce Popp signed to a big free agent contract of the Buffalo Bills. Ed West, who had been their tight end, injury question there, but again, he had been their starter a year after they lose Jackie Harris. So a lot of nice things going in Green Bay. They're moving forward. And then a couple with Sharp, just his injury, and Pop signed a big money by the Packers, by the Buffalo Bills. The Pack now has to arrest that slide a little bit and get going back, especially the way Brett Favre came on last year and had such a fabulous season. Let's go to the podium and see now that Mort probably will be correct with the Packers a trade, perhaps with the Panthers.
Mort is never wrong.
We have a trade between the Green Bay Packers and the Carolina Panthers. Green Bay is trading the current pick, the 22nd pick in the first round, to Carolina, along with Green Bay's 6th round pick in this draft, which is the 188th selection. In return, Green Bay acquires from Carolina 3 picks. Carolina's bonus pick in the first round in this draft, which is the 32nd. Carolina's pick in the 3rd round in this draft, which is number 65. And Carolina's 6th round pick in this draft, which is number 173. Carolina is now on the clock.
All right, well, that's certainly an interesting move as Jacksonville moved up to get James Stewart. Carolina, their expansion brethren, is doing the same thing. Now, I think, well, Carolina's on the clock. They got time to figure it out. We got time to figure it out. It's going to be a starter. It's going to be, well, we'll go through the names in just a moment.
Trade that just occurred.
Cast of thousands elsewhere around the league. Here's the trade that was just pulled off by the Panthers and the Packers. Now, the Panthers moving up to get the 22nd overall selection, and they get a 6th round pick from the Packers. The Packers get a low one, so in other words, the Packers drop 10 spots there in the first round. They get a 3rd round pick from Carolina. That one is up near the top of the 3rd round. And they get a 6th round pick, and that one also is at the top of round number 6. So Carolina went down, got quarterback Collins, giving Kajana Carter a chance to go to Cincinnati with the number 1 overall pick. Now they move up with the Packers. We have some value of Mel of offensive linemen, Brockermeyer, Stringer, although I don't think that's the guy. I think it could be Brockermeyer or it could be Poole, the very fast, not big, very fast, and also return man defensive back. Brockermeyer Poole may be where the Panthers are looking.
You get the lineman, you get the corner. I really think that when you look at the linemen are still there, these guys can start at an offensive tackle spot very early in their careers. Tyrone Poole, I think, is going to be a sensational pick for somebody at this point because of his return skills. Here's a playmaker. You look for athletes in the first round that make a difference. Tyrone Poole had 17 career interceptions, 4 of which he returned for touchdowns, blocked 10 kicks, averaged 13.3 yards per punt return. Somebody's going to get, I think, the steal of the draft. Just where Darrell Green went. Remember, he went the end of the first round to the Redskins, and this is a comparable player to a Darrell Green and Tyrone Poole.
The other thing is, Mel, it's not a pick that hurts you. That's the other thing. It's not the kind of a pick that hurts you. You can stick the guy in as a starter, and the whole team's got to grow around him anyway. So you're not putting, say, an offensive lineman at risk out there to get Frank Reich hurt. So you're not losing your quarterback, experimenting maybe with an offensive lineman. You've got a defensive back who's a great one-on-one cover man who's going to have to learn to live on an island anyway. And when you think of Dom Capers and the type of defense that they run in Carolina, it could work out very well. You know, they had a pretty decent cornerback by the name of Rod Woodson that plays in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, you get a corner out there, it would make a lot of sense.
Well, Dom Capers, of course, the defensive coordinator for Bill Cowher with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And here is what the Steelers defense did last year. Now, of course, the Carolina Panthers are not going to be able to put up the same sort of numbers this coming year or the year after, or probably the year after that on defense. But Dom Capers, defensive style coach, has the attacking defense and plays, you know, he'll be looking along the way either in June, July, or in this draft here, but a guy that can play that Kevin Green type position, a kind of a unique position around the league. There are not that many teams that play that sort of position with the linebackers the way he played Green and Lloyd. Of course, he tailored it to their talents as well.
Right. I think the one thing that happened to Kevin Green when he was in Los Angeles is he was forced to play up and down and up and down. And really, Kevin Green is an interesting outside linebacker. He doesn't like to play in space. He doesn't necessarily like to play on the open side. He plays over the tight end, extremely strong at the point of attack, extremely quick around the corners, and really a bookend. He needs somebody to come from the other side. You know, I mean, when you take a look at Coach Capers and you say, what would he like? He'd like to try and model this Carolina defense after the job that he did in Pittsburgh. And I think, you know, a corner certainly is a great place to start.
It is going to be interesting to watch, and we got to know Jacksonville and Carolina by doing the expansion draft, all of us, along with many of those out in the field, and seeing with all of their picks that they're going to have this year and some bonus picks next year, how you build a football team. I mean, we look back at how the Dallas Cowboys were built. We also look back at how some of the teams that didn't do that well were not built too well. But I think each of these teams go in a little different direction, at least in philosophy, and certainly in difference in the experience of those building the ball club. Carolina with an experienced group of Bill Polian and Mike McCormick, et cetera. Jacksonville with younger, although certainly Tom Coughlin has been around. Right now, if you're lining up your Carolina Panthers for next September, when they kick off in the NFC West in the same division with the champion 49ers, they have Fox and Cragen and Gerald Williams, the former Steeler, on the defensive line. Darian Connor and Lamar Lathan at linebackers, and Sam Mills. There's some guys that can play. And then defensive backs, they have Timmy McKyer, the veteran at one of the corners, along with Rod Smith, James Williams, the former Bill. So this is the names thus far going into this draft that we have in Carolina.
You know, Mel brought up, I think, the most interesting point very quickly is Poole could be a great return man as well.
Yep.
That's what you need sprinkled in here.
All right, the pick is up. Carolina with the 22nd selection. Let's go to the commissioner at the podium. And fittingly, there's the helmet right behind the podium, very well framed.
With the 22nd selection in the first round, just acquired from Green Bay, the Carolina Panthers have selected defensive back from Fort Valley State College, Tyrone Poole.
Thank you.
Like we knew what we were talking about all the time we discussed them.
Well, this is, again, a very
the New England
interesting
Patriots
player.
Are next on the
Played at
clock.
a very small school in Georgia, but as an intelligent and everybody who went out to see him, not only about football player, Mel, loved his character.
You want to see some athletic ability
Yep.
and quickness, Chris? Watch this individual workout with the drills for quick feet and burst. This kid had a record time in that area. This is at the Senior Bowl when he looked like a kid from UCLA, not a kid from Fort Valley State. There he is against Frank Sanders, who figures to be an early second-round pick. Here's his punt return skills, and you'll see the quickness here. 13.3-yard average this past season as a punt returner, career right around that same area. Here he is in man coverage again against David Dunn, wide receiver from Fresno State. Easily hangs with them on the deep route, makes the play, anticipates the ball, and comes away with the deflection. And he also creates turnovers. 17 career interceptions, like I said, 4 of which he returned for touchdowns. 196 yards, 190 yards. So the guy, unlike a Jimmy Hitchcock, who had no career interceptions at North Carolina, Tyrone Poole makes a difference.
I think you know, the name that comes to my mind right away is Darryl Green. I had a chance to play with Darryl when he was a rookie with the Washington Redskins. The thing that impressed me about Darryl is if you didn't get the ball up in a hurry where it had to be, even though he was young, he had a lot of great makeup speed, a lot of great quickness, not necessarily flat-out speed, which he had anyway, but quickness to make up the difference, so he forces quarterbacks to make decisions. Tyrone Poole can come in, play in a nickelback position, put him back and return kicks for you. You've got a young man who not only can help stop offenses, but he can create plays for you and put points on the board.
This was one of the couple of names that Bill Polian had talked about. If they're there in about the 2021 range, we'll go up and get them. They just did. Patriots are next. This is the last couple of years, our compatriot Tommy Jackson has been up at Patriot headquarters. We'd like to wish Tom, his wife Jen, and their newest addition, Taylor Lane Jackson, a welcome into the world, born last week. And Tommy timed it perfectly. He didn't have to work the draft, but he's working the 2 and the 4 a.m. feedings. So congratulations to Tommy and Jen on their new addition to their household. And also to Mel and Kimberly. Now, you've understood what that 2 a.m. and the diaper change is all about. To Lauren Kimberly Kuiper, 6 weeks old. Congratulations,
7 weeks
Dad.
Monday, Chris. Thank you very much.
Hasn't changed your life at all, has it?
No, no.
And Joe, you're a little farther down the road, aren't you?
Yeah, well, you know, my situation is my son Patrick just turned 16. He's got a car. Pat, be careful. Dad's watching. So congratulations to you, too.
The New England Patriots are on the board. There's 10 minutes to go with their selection. We'll be back to look closer at Bill Parcells. Draft Bill Parcells in New England on the board. They pass the ball tremendously. They don't run very well. What about Ray Zellers from the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame? I know he's a fullback, but he can catch the ball. He would be a productive player. That's just a thought. Let's go up to the commissioner and see if that thought makes any sense to Parcells.
With the 21st pick in the first round, the New England Patriots select defensive back from Michigan, Ty Law.
Like I said, how about a fullback? Right, the right part of the country.
How about
a DB?
Are now on the clock.
So it's Ty Law, defensive end. Last year, the Patriots had the most expensive defensive backfield in football with varying results. So they go with Ty Law. I thought a running back might make sense, but Ty Law is certainly a player. That's about where we had him slotted to go. We'll talk about Law in a moment, but in Drew Bledsoe, certainly a guy that set all sorts of records for passes and passes attempted, and now he's going into his third year, threw for over 4,500 yards. Is becoming, has a chance to get on the Roger Clemens level, certainly with the New England athletes at this point, if he's not close to that yet, with what type of people that the Patriots put in the stands with the exciting action they did with getting into the playoffs. But there's a question that after this year, is there kind of a buyout in his contract? If he throws for a certain amount of yards, does a certain amount of things, can his long contract with New England be reopened? Craig James is with Bledsoe's agent, Lee Steinberg. Craig?
Well, Lee is a busy man. He's had 6 for the last 7 years, the top pick in the NFL draft. Today, Kerry Collins, Kijana Carter. But another guy with the Patriots in mind here, Drew Bledsoe. What's going on right now with that?
Well, Drew's contract would probably void this year because of a provision we put in back in 1993. So we're involved in negotiations. Drew's very happy at New England, and I'm sure we'll be there for years to come. We just have some talking to do.
All right, when you look at this year's draft and Kijana Carter, Kerry Collins, what kind of discussions have you had with their personnel people?
Really none at all. In some years, the team has wanted to negotiate prior to the draft. This year, they did not. We were pretty certain that Kerry would go to Carolina. They've been so interested in him, and it makes more sense for the expansion team to take the long-term quarterback, where the running back, Kijana, now goes behind a little more established line.
When you talk about that established line, you've got to deal with Mike Brown and the Bengals and all those guys. You ready for that?
Well, somewhere in a previous incarnation, our souls must have been mixed, because I had him last year on Dan Wilkinson, and if you recall, that was very smooth. None of these first-round draft picks we've ever done, very first, have ever been late. It'll get done quickly.
You represent Steve Young, 49ers. You think he's happy to have J.J. Stokes?
Oh, can you believe it? I mean, that's almost obscene. The National Football League ought to outlaw that offense.
Well, hey, good luck to you in all the negotiations.
My pleasure, Craig.
All right, Boomer, there's a guy right there that's buying dinner for somebody tonight.
All right, Craig, thank you. Yes, Lee Steinberg has many dinners to buy. We'll be back to talk with the commissioner. He's been working tough duty up at the podium. Commissioner Paul Tagliabue will join us in a moment. We'll be back. We've had just that. Commissioner Paul Tagliabue, you're kind of reading some different cards here and there up there at the podium. And let's get to the Warren Sapp situation first.
Okay.
A lot of question about what should have happened, what didn't. NFL security report. League stand by it. And what recourse, what might happen if Sapp's people challenge? I don't know that they are, but how does that all work, Commissioner?
Well, I think two things can be said right now. Number one is that the teams obviously have an interest in all aspects of a player's health, physical condition, and potential down the road, and that includes, whether there's a substance abuse question. So that's a legitimate interest the clubs have. I think equally strong is the player's interest, that it should be handled confidentially. And we're going to look into it early next week. I've been spending some time already today looking into exactly what happened. And if there is action to be taken, we'll take it to either to sanction somebody or to rectify it for the future if there was a problem.
Does he become, since he was not an NFL player at the time that any of this went on, does this constitute a first-time offense, or is that does not?
I don't think so. Under the program we recently worked out with the Players Association, I think he has some assistance available to him if he needs it, counseling, hopefully, whatever there's been will be a thing of the past. I think he can be a great player in the NFL.
No question about that. He's the top pick of the Buccaneers. Let's go on to the situation in Los Angeles, where the Rams eventually got the permission to go to St. Louis, and now the Raiders make it. Will the Raiders be playing in Los Angeles in '95, Commissioner?
Well, we hope so. We're working with the Raiders, trying to get some stadium financing done for a new stadium in Los Angeles. We'll be taking that up at our league meeting in May. If we can get it done, I think that would be a real positive step for the league. If we can't, we'll have to see what our alternatives are. The one thing that is clear is that the Coliseum is not a suitable stadium for the Raiders, going forward, and that creates a real problem.
Do you have to really make a move at that May meeting to commit to a stadium, or else they might make some noise about going to a Baltimore and Oakland this season?
Well, I think they're going to have to consider that. At least that's what they've said. And if the stadium is going to be done for the 97 season, which is one of the objectives, then we have to make a decision at the May meeting. If it slips to 98, maybe there is some more time in the calendar. But we're not looking to a slippage. We're looking to a decision.
Commissioner, does the fact that there's one team now in L.A. and yet a little bit of a question about the other, does this move up the expansion timetable at all with L.A. now becoming a possibility?
I think it moves up our timetable for looking at expansion. I think we have to see whether a second team in L.A., an NFC team, which is one of our objectives now, whether that should be an expansion team or whether there is any basis for another team to relocate there.
Speaking of relocation, Mike Brown of Cincinnati has come out quite publicly and said if he doesn't have at least an agreement for a new stadium or a drastic change in where he plays at Riverfront, that he would consider moving somewhere else. Has he approached you with that, and indeed could that happen?
Well, Mike has spoken to me mostly about the economics of the league today, and two aspects in particular. As teams get better and better stadiums, other teams have to compete with those teams with the good stadiums. In a free agency environment, that becomes a new factor. Also, the salary cap is an expensive system. A number of clubs don't like it. They think it's too expensive because it includes not just the cap and free agency, but very high minimums. And so if you don't have a good stadium situation, you can be in trouble under this collective bargaining agreement.
Well, under this collective bargaining agreement, how is it working from a league standpoint? I mean, no, I don't mean how does it work, but is the league happy with it, or are there some things that need to be tweaked quite a bit a couple of years in?
Well, I think there's more and more experience with it. That's obvious. And I think there's more and more feeling from a club standpoint that there have to be some areas to be re-examined. There are some problems with this agreement in terms of, the allocation of dollars, young players versus your older veteran players. More and more clubs feel that free agency after 4 years is a problem in terms of squad planning, in terms of the relationship of younger players to older players. Basically, we're pleased with the agreement. I think everyone should be pleased with labor peace. We saw what happened in the other sports, but there will be, to use your word, some tweaking, and there's some need for improvement, I think.
Corporate sponsorship, the type of thing that might have, due to nothing that the 49ers did, enabled Deion Sanders, or might enable him to stay out west because a local company might kicking endorsement deals. If he moves out, that's not available to him. How do you police that?
Well, it's difficult to police. I think we can police it, but corporate sponsorships have been a fact of life in pro sports, going back to Frank Gifford in the 50s with the Madison Avenue Giants, right, and Joe Namath and others in the 60s and 70s. So I think we can police it, and I think we are. And I don't think that's the most significant problem with the system.
Commissioner, does the league have to realign for the 96 season? They're not in 95, obviously, but what happens next season?
Well, we have an alignment, obviously, for this season, 95. For the 96 season, we need a vote of the membership. I'm not in a position where I, with my authority, can have an alignment for the 96 season. So we'll need a vote probably at our fall meeting in October and November.
A wheel alignment maybe, but you don't get a vote for team realignment. You enjoying yourself today? This is a wild day.
It's been a wild day. It's been an interesting day. There are a lot of talented players there, and with the extra picks of the expansion teams, there's been some trading around, and it makes it interesting for the fans, including the two of us.
We got the two of us and the 4,000 Jets and Giant fans that was. Thanks for joining us, and I know you got work back up at the podium as the Minnesota Vikings have about a minute or so left on the clock for their second first-round pick. They took Derek Alexander, defensive lineman from Florida State, with the first one, and well, who's minding the store? If you're here, who's minding the store?
Gene Washington. He's our director of football development, but he's also an old broadcaster.
Well, he's also the official voice of the expansion draft at the podium. I mean, that's a job that he took very seriously. Much tougher than catching passes from John Brody, I think.
Well, that's what he told me.
Let's go up to Gene Washington for the Vikings pick.
Good. Thanks.
The Minnesota Vikings, with their second pick in the first round, number 24, have selected tackle from Ohio State, Corey Stringer. Miami is on the clock.
Maybe we'll get in summer or something. We'll be back with more at the NFL Draft here in New York right after this. Back in New York, so the Vikings, as they did last year, have 2 first-round picks. Last year they got starters out of both Dwayne Washington, a corner, and Todd Stussy on the offensive line. This year they go with Derek Alexander, defensive line, and now another offensive lineman, big, and I do mean big, Corey Stringer from Ohio State, who was the 7th underclassman chosen in the draft thus far through the 24 picks. Let's go out to Brad Nessler, who is with the Vikings coach, Dennis Green. Brad?
All right, Chris, and with Todd Stussy on one side and eventually Corey Stringer on that other side, the Vikings are set at tackle into the year 2000. Denny Green's with me. But, you know, Frank Gilliam is the vice president of player personnel for the Vikings from Steubenville, Ohio. And I'm telling you, Frank's been here a long time. He runs the draft, and he's a meat and potatoes kind of guy. And he knows that Corey Stringer may have a few meat and potatoes in his body, but he moves piles, and 345 or not, Coach, you got a good one there, I think.
We really did. Corey Stringer's a tremendous football player, a big, strong, physical guy that knows how to knock you off the ball, and I think that's where he really rolls in our eyes.
You know, there was talk about the weight problem, whether or not he ballooned up to 345, but you got to look at what he did on the field the last couple of years, and, you know, there's weight clauses, there's a lot of things.
Oh, yeah, well, he's had 2 workouts really in the last month, and his weight was back down to 330 pounds, which doesn't make him necessarily small. The big thing that Corey can do is really dominate, and we look for him to play a right tackle, very athletic, a guy that likes to put guys on the ground. Again, comes to us with, we've had some other great players from Ohio State and Chris Carter and guys like Robert Smith, and we think he's going to be a very good football player. And we felt fortunate to get him because he was considered a blue-chip player for us, a guy that, as you can see, comes off the ball and normally winds up cleaning up his guys.
You know, he's a guy that you could probably move Chris Hinton out of guard, right, on that side?
Well, we can. We also picked up Rick Cunningham as a right tackle. So now, you know, it's very difficult for first-year players to come in and start their first year. Now Corey comes in, and we know he's a tremendous player. We'll move Chris Hinton to right guard, and then Rick Cunningham and Corey Stringer play the right tackle.
All right, you had trouble in the red zone last year. You got a player now that takes up half of the red zone. Good job, Coach.
We appreciate it. We feel good.
All right, Denny Green, let's go down to Gary Danielson in Tampa Bay. Gary?
All right, thanks, Brad. They really do have a good football player and a good athlete. This is a guy that was a man as a sophomore. He's a little heavy, but, you know, the last time I looked, there's a guy named Nate Newton and Eric Williams down in Dallas that really aren't svelte, and they're playing pretty good. I just can't believe that 345 is going to make any difference. I'd line up behind him and feel very comfortable. Let's go to Mark Malone in Philadelphia.
All right, thanks, Gary. You know, I had the opportunity to watch Corey Stringer last year against Purdue. It was the most dominating performance I ever saw by a college offensive lineman. He put the guy on the ground, his guy, at least 6 or 7 times. In fact, the man he blocked never got a sniff of the quarterback or the ball carrier. At 340 pounds, he's got an extraordinary feat. He can not only drive block, but he's got exceptional hands and feet and can pass block as well. Let's take it back to New York.
All right, Mark, thank you. So Minnesota goes big offensive line to Corey Stringer. Miami, do they look offensive line as well? The Dolphins with the 25th pick are up next on the clock. We'll be back in New York right after this.
With the 25th selection in the first round, the Miami Dolphins select tackle from Houston, Billy Milner.
All right, so the
next on the clock is Atlanta with a selection acquired from Cleveland.
All right, so the commissioner back up at the podium. Gene Washington had his moment of glory. Now the commissioner's back to run out the first round. 2 straight offensive linemen, Stringer and then Milner with Atlanta up next. Let's quickly go to Andrea Kramer down in Jacksonville. Andrea?
Well, Chris, the Dolphins had 6 linemen they really wanted to take at this 25th spot, so I'm sure they were thrilled that Billy Milner was there. Now, he has a condition similar to a stenosis, which is a narrowing of the spinal column. In fact, some teams have labeled him a medical reject, but obviously that wasn't as much of a concern for the Dolphins. What is a concern is fortifying the right side of their offensive line. They have Burt Widener at right guard, who's recovering from off-season ankle surgery, and, of course, right tackle Ron Heller is 33 years of age, so Milner should fit right in there on the right side. Now let's head to Hank Goldberg with the Jets.
You know, there was a little bit of a connection between Houston and the Miami Dolphins. This draft fell perfectly for them because the 3 linemen they felt would be available or whom they wanted were all there. But Milner came recommended from Kim Helton. You might recall that Kim Helton was hired from the Raiders just before he took the Houston head coaching job, And this was his recommendation to the Dolphins, and the Dolphins gave him a very good, hard look, so they're very happy to get him. And now we go to Carolina. Oh, Chris Berman, I'm sorry. Sorry, Boomer.
I could be anywhere, Hank. Thank you. I've got Carolina on my mind. Billy Milner goes to Miami, and this is kind of, maybe you look at the 90 draft, which was just superb for the Dolphins. Richmond, Webb, and Sims, 1 and 2 picks, and both have been Pro Bowl. Of course, Richmond, Webb every year. So Milner was, as Andrea pointed out, a bit of a medical question with the neck. But Mel, pretty athletic for that position.
Well, I'll tell you, from considering the injury, started 22 straight games at Houston, and of course he came over from the JUCO ranks. Here he was in the Senior Bowl against Sean King, but he did have trouble in the 101 pass rush drills down in Mobile. Here you see him outside, getting down the field, and you see the quickness and the speed for a big kid who got his weight up from maybe 260 up to 290. Again, against Damian Jeffries, you see the base that he has. Very quick feet. That's what Miami wants in their linemen. They like linemen who can get outside, protect Dan Marino, and that's what they're going to be looking for Milner to do pretty much right away this year, Chris.
All right, so Milner goes to the Dolphins. Atlanta is up. It's got to be defense, defense, defense. Derek Brooks, linebacker is my choice, Joe.
I agree with you. Absolutely.
You do?
I agree with you 100%. I think defense is the way Atlanta wants to go. They certainly want to shore it up. I mean, they got Eric Metcalf on offense. That's pretty much going to be all the offense they're going to need. He'll probably catch over 100 balls. You'll probably wind up seeing him in the backfield a little bit. On the defensive side, I think Derek Brooks is the man.
Yeah, they need to stop people big time. Let's go up to the commissioner.
With the 26th selection, the Atlanta Falcons select defensive back from Florida State, Devin Bush.
Well,
Pittsburgh Steelers
we said defense.
Select next and are now
Derek,
on the clock.
we meant Devin, didn't we?
I thought we said Devin.
Same school.
Right?
There you go.
Same school. Well, they could need help anywhere along the defense. Plus, look at their linebacking core. They got Darryl Talley and Clay Matthews, who between them, I think, go back to Bronco Nagurski. They tackled him once when he was playing. Devin Bush is a hitter.
Well, they were scouting Derek Brooks so thoroughly, Chris.
Right.
They found Devin Bush. They liked it. He really moved up really late. He was a junior who came out early. Nobody had a lot of information on him. They went back and scouted him and found a kid with great size who hit like a ton of bricks.
Yep.
Needs to become more of a wrap-up tackler, but this kid throws his body around, has good range, and his workouts were outstanding for a kid his size.
Well, you know what I liked about the simple fact here, even though Mel has him ranked 5th, you look at Pounds, Tony Jones, Thomas, Johnson, all good hitters. Atlanta wanted to stay in the defensive secondary. I mean, Poole went, Law went. So they basically, what they did is they stayed with their commitment to improve an area, the defensive secondary. And that's what June Jones is doing. He finds an area of weakness. He stays in it. Maybe the people he wants, all exactly what he wants isn't there, but yet there's somebody to get the job done for him. That's why he stayed.
All right, so Devin Bush, the big hitting safety from Florida State, goes to Atlanta. Pittsburgh is next, and you got to think the tight end Mark Bruner. This is one down at the bottom of the charts that everyone seems to have pegged because, remember, Pittsburgh's lost Eric Green. But let's go back a little bit to Bush and Miller and Stringer, get a comment or two from Chris Myers down at Dallas. And, Chris, I know you're paying attention to these guys. I know you care.
And you know I would. And the Cowboys had all three of those players at the top of their board had they been there at their choice at 28. Now that they're gone, Dallas is working the phones. They expect to trade down. They have several scenarios. They hope to get a pair of number 2s. If not, Jerry Jones hopes to get at least 3 selections. He feels that there's not a player out there that can start for this team at that high pick. So, therefore, they want to get a backup reserve player, not have to pay him first-round money in the second round, and still hope that he'll contribute on the special teams. Remember, Dallas, one of the deepest teams in the history of football in their back-to-back Super Bowl run. They've been hit over recent years, so they're looking for backup players, reasons that Dallas will trade down. Right now, let's go to Mark Malone with more on the Steelers, who are currently on the clock. Mark?
All right, thanks, Chris. And I understand Pittsburgh's about ready to make a pick, and that's understandable. They can't believe that the 3 players on the board they like the most are still there. Brockermeyer, Barrett Brooks, and tight end Mark Bruner, who might replace Eric Green. Although I think they like Brockermeyer the best, and they are in a tremendous situation right now. Chris, I know you've got the pick. Let's send it back to New York.
All right, Mark, thank you. Yeah, there's some value at offensive line, that's for sure. It's amazing that they would have those guys left at the number 27 slot. Let's get the word.
With the 27th pick in this draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select tight end from the University of Washington, Mark Bruner. Dallas is now on the clock.
There's some Steeler fans here. If we can locate them, they're all fired up on their tight end. You know what's amazing is that the 27th pick, we've all had written down a guy at 27, and that normally would mean certain things have to happen, that down at the bottom of the first round, he could be picked earlier, another guy falls. How is it that we can't figure out sometimes the 5th or 6th pick with number 27 we've all had for a month? All right, Steeler fans. Well, they found the camera, have they not? Dallas up next. We'll be back. And waste any time by selecting Mark Bruner, tight end from Washington, to replace Eric Green with the Cowboys now on the clock. Joe, this one we all had added up, and once Green was gone,
the home of the tight ends.
Right.
Pittsburgh. Find Ron Earhart, find a tight end. That's basically what you're dealing with. Russ Francis, 34 receptions, 77 through 80. Mark Bavaro, 85 through 90, 44 receptions, average per year, obviously. Eric Green, 92 to 94 now in Miami. You look at the touchdown production that they average per year. Ron Earhart likes to work with tight ends. He likes to use them in the running game. He likes to use them to block. Now, Bruner had 90 catches in school, so he has the ability to catch it. May not get down the field, but you're not looking for a guy to go 20, 30 yards downfield. What you're looking for is a guy to move 10, 12, 14 yards, make the big play for you on third down, get down around the goal line, put his big body on a defensive back and make a play. I think they got the man they wanted. Matter of fact, I'm sure they did.
Mel, he's pretty close to Brady, right, on the charts?
Not much separating them, Chris. When you really talk about Mark Bruner, you're talking about one of the more competitive athletes in this draft. Lee Corso loved him at the Hula Bowl, thought he was one of the more dominant, inspiring players that he had in that particular game. And you watch him here, 6'4.5", 245 pounds. He can block extremely well, almost operates like an extra offensive tackle for you. And like I say, a very fiery football player. If you watch him move for a big kid, he gets out quickly, and he holds and sustains that block down the field. That's why one of the reasons why Napoleon Kaufman was so effective getting outside. Watch him in the short range. This is in the slop at the East-West game. You see him getting down the field, make the catch with his hands, extending the arms and hands to pull in the reception. He's the kind of kid that is exactly what you're looking for in a tight end. He doesn't have the flashy speed, athletic ability, but he does the job as an inline blocker, great hands, and I'll tell you, he'll pick up right where Eric Green left off.
So Bruner to the Steelers, Kyle Brady earlier, tight end to the Jets, only the second time in the last 15 years that we've had two tight ends go in the first round. Happened in '92 when both New York teams, Derek Brown, Giants, Johnny Mitchell, the Jets. Let's go to Mark Malone to finish your thought. The Steelers didn't even let you finish the sentence, Mark.
No, they did. And are there any 16 jerseys out there in the crowd? That's what I want to know, Boomer.
We're looking. We're looking.
Okay. But let me just add this, that I talked to GM Tom Donahoe of the Steelers. They thought, as Mel Kiper said, that Bruner was as good as Kyle Brady. There wasn't much fall-off. And they were disappointed in Eric Green because of his weight a little bit. He wasn't able to separate from people. He wasn't the consistent blocker. They like Bruner's ability to drive block, and they like his ability to get down the field and create some separation in those seam routes off the play action. So this is a great acquisition for him. They've lost Eric Green, and there's been a lot of concern about who you replace Eric Green with. Well, they didn't think Mark Bruner would be around. The fact that he is has really helped this football team out. Boomer?
All right, Mark, we've sent a man out to go buy a number 16 jersey, though, and bring it in here ASAP. The Cowboys, we look at their war room. They're on the clock with the Chargers next. 5 picks left. And the first round will be, as they say in France, Histoire.
Moving on.
Draft Dodgers.
The Draft Dodgers. That's how rumors start now. I was too young for that. The Dallas Cowboys are on the clock with under 7 minutes to go. As we've heard Chris Myers say, they're not necessarily thrilled with what's there at this point. Do they slide out? They've got to make their top pick count. Last year, Shante Carver, jury's still way out on him. Let's go down to Big D and join Chris Myers. Chris?
All right, they still think Shante Carver can play, and Larry Allen was a big pick for them that came through. But the Dallas Cowboys, we have a trade, Chris. I feel like Paul Tagliabue here, the commissioner. We have a trade. The Cowboys have traded their first pick, the 28th overall selection, to the Tampa Bay Bucks for a pair of second-round choices. That would be Tampa's 41st selection, the 41st overall in the draft, the second-round choice of Tampa Bay, and also the 63rd selection. Moments ago in the Dallas War Room, this is what transpired as Jerry Jones, Larry Lacewell, Barry Switzer working the phones. Again, the Cowboys figured a matter of economics. They'd have to pay $700,000 or $800,000 for a first-round selection. A second-round player cost them maybe half that, so they can get two players to help their team versus paying one that they believed would not be a starter. So Tampa Bay gets the Cowboys pick. and Dallas gets 2 more selections along with their own in the second round. For more, let's go down to Tampa and Gary Danielson.
All right, thanks, Chris. Tampa, again, really getting the benefits of that move-down trade when they were able to get Warren Sapp. They have 3 number 2s going into the second round. Talking to the people before this draft, there was still a big need for a linebacker. Remember, this was a defense that played a 4-2-5 nickel situation defense through the whole game last year. I kind of think that they're maneuvering themselves for Derek Brooks, the linebacker from Florida State. That'd be a good pick. Sam Weiss told me that he was ready to move at the end of the first round if his guy was available. This might be that move. Chris?
All right, Gary, thank you, and thank you, Chris. So the Buccaneers very busy, moving down, now moving up. So Tampa Bay would end up with 2 first-round selections. We have 5 picks left in the first round. Tampa Bay, and only one of them was there at the start of the day. Tampa Bay, San Diego, Cleveland, Kansas City, and Green Bay. That's how the end of the first round will work. I set the over-under at the first round at 5:53.5 minutes. And so we got about an hour to go. We got to get 5 picks in. I played the under. It's going to be close. Pick is coming in for the Buccaneers. We'll see if Gary had this one corralled. Let's go up to the podium. Or maybe not quite yet. Could be a long name.
A pronunciation.
Well, here's the blue draft card and then the pick. So we haven't had the trade card. I mean, we have not had that announced here yet.
Dallas has traded its pick to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, with the 28th pick in the first round, has selected linebacker from Florida State, Derek Brooks. And in return for that pick, Dallas acquires 2 picks from Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's second-round pick in this draft, which is number 41, and the 63rd selection in this draft, which Tampa Bay had acquired from Philadelphia. So Dallas has the 41st and the 63rd pick in this draft.
Well, we had Derek Brooks a couple of picks early. He's a good player. And the Buccaneers now have gone with Warren Sapp on the defensive front. And he's gone with Derek Brooks at linebacker. So defense, the move for Sam Weiss in Tampa. First year under new ownership, the Glazer family, Mel.
Well, Derek Brooks is a 6 foot and a quarter, 227-pound, undersized linebacker. It's going to have to fit into that type of scheme down in Tampa. When you really look at him at Florida State, great tackler in the open field, remarkable job, always around the ball. Intense football player, great instinct. There he is picking up the fumble, scooping it up, and when he gets into the broken field, he's a defensive back. As I said, only 227 pounds, runs pretty well, maybe in the 4.65 range. That's why he really couldn't project to a safety spot in the NFL. He had to be a true linebacker. Look at him chase down Greg DeLong there, a tight end in the open field again. I think he'll be one of the best special teams tacklers in the NFL right away. See the ability there around the ball. Comes away with the interception, but as a tackler, a special teams guy, a coverage linebacker in their scheme, he'll fit in pretty well to a team, Chris, that's pretty desperate for some outside linebackers.
Not only are they desperate, Mel, but I think you have to take a look at the sequence of events that have transpired. You have a new defensive coordinator in Rusty Tillman down there. Remember Rufus Porter in Seattle, where Rusty Tillman was the defensive coordinator? This guy fits in almost to the perfect mold of a Rufus Porter. Not real big, give you a great rush off the corner, relentless effort, and if he does get his hands on the ball, there's a chance you wind up with points.